Today's guest is Jou Chun, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, my personal coach and instructor. He's the owner of Syzygy BJJ out here in Auckland, New Zealand. And as you'll find out in this conversation, it's a very interesting thinker about a variety of things: coaching, martial arts, business, even magic, which was surprising to me. Just very interesting the way he thinks about things and about how he applies his mastery from martial arts into other aspects of his life. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get into the podcast. Before we get into it, all right, before we get into jiu-jitsu talk, you've been watching Jason. It never says, always thought it was Ledane, and then I read it properly, and I think it's Ledine. I don't even fucking know, but he's fucking crazy. All right.
He is, right?
Yes. Probably up there with the top card cheat demonstrators today.
Oh, you guys call it cheating?
So it's called like gambling. Card mechanic. That's one way to define it.
Yeah.
So they're not really magicians. They usually demonstrate cheating moves.
Okay. Yeah.
Some card mechanics will mix the magic into it, which I suspect he might be doing, but that's neither here nor there. He's like at the top of the game.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to try to show you card gambling shit because I'm not going to compete with that. But I'll show you some cool stuff. So,
shit, you're going to do it with no sleeves as well? God damn it.
Sleep. I mean, it's one of the cliches, right? Tell you what, just take a look at them. Take one out that you like.
All right, anyone.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right.
I'll take the deck back. Show the camera. Remember it, etc., etc. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I'll take it back. So, you know how like Jason will like do like all this card manipulation shit, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll just use the magic of the spirits and whatever else, right? So watch.
Yeah.
See the shadow? Like the light casts?
Dude, what the... Dude. Stop it. Oh, dude.
What was it?
The Four of Spades. Oh, you suck, right? Actually, bro, that's not cool, bro. Like...
See, so that's when I don't have to use sleight of hand, right?
Oh, what the hell?
I just
No, seriously, like, dude, that's messed up, bro. That is messed up.
I'll show you a bit of manipulation too. Why not, right? So, the 4. You could have picked the club, right?
Yep.
But it's the spade we're looking at. So if we put it inside the middle like this, and I shuffle, can you name a number? Like, just name a number.
8.
8, right? So what I'm going to ask you in a second, right, is to go like just count out 8, right? Like,
yeah,
from wherever. So the idea is I'm going to try to manipulate the card to the 8th position, right? So let's see.
Right, just don't do it, right? Like it just messes with me too much.
All right, let's see if I. All right. So, let's see. I mean, maybe I'm like one off or something, but take a look. So just.
What, from the top?
Yeah.
Just face down.
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Was it the 8th? Or maybe no. I think it would be that one. But yeah, let's see which one.
This one?
Yep.
Right.
There we go.
Dude, that is not.
So that's a little bit of like controlling cards, stuff like that. But again, controlling stuff for an entire hand of poker is a completely different beast. You're controlling multiple cards. You're doing that kind of stuff, right? Let's do one in a similar vein, but like using magic, right? So, you still want to use the 4, or you want to change your mind?
No, we'll say with the 4.
The 4 is good. All right. So, I'm gonna shuffle the cards, and now this time name the I'm locking it in. All right. So actually, no, wait. I think it's more like a prediction, right? All right. I'm locking it in. Name a number.
Nah. We'll go 7 then.
7. Do you want the 7th card or 7 down in the next one?
Dude, no, the 7th card.
7th card, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
You don't want this one.
No.
If you had gone for this one, that's a 3, right? If you had gone for that one, that's a 9. But you went for the 7th.
Right. Yo.
All right. There we go. So,
No, dude, no, you can't do a trick and just like, yo, let's move on. Dude, what the hell, man?
all right. Well, that's just a little bit of just to get you started, just to get the creative juices flowing, right?
Oh, bro. Dude, you're so good at this, bro. Like, you're so good at it, bro.
It's yeah. See, the thing is, it's like that comparison thing. Like when I look at guys like Jason, I'm just like, fuck, bro, I suck ass. You know, like
really?
it's it's high level shit. But then again, he's like hyper specialized on a very specific thing. You know,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Whereas, like, for example, like I've worked mostly in bars, clubs. Like a lot of my stuff doesn't even involve a table. So I only started doing table work, which what the magicians call it, when I got this poker table. I'm like, oh fuck, I have a surface now. Usually all my shit is in the hands. Like I walk around and I like, you know, like, so it's like depending on where you perform, how you perform, the style, like it will all change what you're good at, right? So there's guys that are like 20 years into magic and they can't do what I do with cards. Like they'll like look at a shuffle and they're like, holy shit. And I'm like, how do you not know how? Because they do other stuff. They do stage magic, they do coin magic, they do all this other stuff. Which I like, for example, coin magic, I suck. Like I'm terrible.
Right. Yeah.
But there's guys that like in New Zealand, there's like this guy that fuck man, like he will 3 coins, he'll fuck you up over and over again with just 3 coins. It's fucked up. So, you know, like, yeah, it just depends. It's kind of like in jiu-jitsu where like, you know, people hyper specialize. So you got a guy that's got a crazy half guard. If you ask him about the half guard, he'll be like, fuck this. Yeah. And then you're like, all right, show me like spider guard. Like, no idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same sort of thing. Like, yeah. So when I like look at, you know, at really good people, high level people, even people that I know and have like met and, you know, it's like, fuck man, am I good? But at the end of the day, right, like the skill set's there. I've been performing a long time. So, you know, it's that fucking, what's it called? Imposter syndrome, you know?
Yeah. But I think your delivery and stuff is like really good because you can, and like heaps of your stuff is quite simple. And I think simple, to be honest, like in magic is actually better because it's like harder for me to work out.
Yeah.
Like it's harder for me to believe, right? Because it's so simple. Like moving the cards without touching them, it's just like, okay, this is spooky. Like this is not cool, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like real simple stuff is really, really cool.
Yeah, you find that like working, you know, like hundreds of hours doing like bar gigs because anything that's more convoluted than like the absolute pure trick, just people don't have the attention span.
Right.
It's such a chaotic environment. So you got to hook them like that, you know?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, you definitely find that like the type of magic I like to watch, like for myself, I wouldn't even be like, oh, watch this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, you know, there's convoluted shit happening.
Right.
There's this guy called the Spanish magician, Danny Ortiz. He's a fucking genius. He will fool me repeatedly with a normal deck of cards for an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Like just free ball, just like jazzing, you know? But if you watch that, you'll be like, cool trick. Nothing like crazy, you know? And that's just because something simple, as you say, will just fuck you up. But like, because I know the stuff, I need like unique ideas, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it depends.
Yeah. I guess you can appreciate what's actually going on better than I can, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just see that.
Or the fact that I don't know what's going on, you know, it's like, holy shit. Yeah. All right. So let's bring this back to jiu-jitsu because I am interested. I've never actually asked you this. Why did you start jiu-jitsu? Very first time. What made you walk into a gym?
Well, that's interesting. So I got the standard story, the UFC one, kind of. Chris Gracie kind of saw that kind of stuff, and then we did the like semi like Fight Club thing, you know, like all dudes do, right? Like, yo, we can just figure this out, kind of thing. And then that kind of died down, and you kind of grew up a little bit, and then I was just like, oh, yo, working and stuff like that, and then one of the boys at work, we're kind of out partying and all this kind of stuff, and he's just like taking dudes down, controlling them from the back, and like just like, whoa, like no.
Like house party, let's have a friendly wrestle, or like shit's going down and I'm gonna just fuck this guy up real quick.
No, yeah. House party.
Gotcha.
Friendly wrestle, and
Because like I've seen both of those variations, and they're kind of different scenarios. But yeah, I got you.
Yeah, and then but he's just like, it's like effortless for him, like proper effort, and like dudes are drunk and all that kind of stuff as well. But like he's just and then he gets like behind me, rear body locks me. I didn't really know what he did, to be honest, at the start. Rear body locks me, and he does that like kind of like pick you up and foot sweep you kind of thing. And then I was just like kind of fell down, and he locks in this like choke and stuff, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, like I don't think I can do anything. You know?
Right.
You know, and then I was just like, dude, like, you know, how long you been training and all that kind of stuff, and he's like a blue belt. And I'm like, bro, isn't that like, that's like the first belt, right? Like, and you can just destroy everyone. This doesn't even make sense, right? Yeah, and then he was like, he was like, he actually trained with Steve Oliver, and but he was good mates with Paulo, and Paulo happened to be on Queen Street, which was like across the road from my work.
The Queen Street days. Oh man, I've heard stories. Yeah,
Queen Street days.
Yeah. Bring that mic like in front of your, like, so it's just there you go. Nice,
cool. Yeah, so then then he takes me in there, and then it's just like, what the hell, like, dude, like, I remember thinking like, dude, like this room is full of like nerds and geeks. Like there is no way that these dudes can like do what he did, because he was a pretty big dude, you know, like, and he was like pretty athletic and all that kind of stuff. And then I just see him get like shredded to pieces by like one of the guys there, and like Michael Hogan. I don't know if I've kind of spoken about him a bit. He was he was a purple belt at the time, and he just shreds up this dude like so much bigger than him, like, you know, and you're just like, how the hell did that happen? Yeah, like, you know, that was like instant hooked, right? And I mean, anyway, like Paulo was like really, really cool too, because I was like first day. He's like real chill about everything, you know, like, yeah, come in, relax and stuff. And I was like, oh, yo, sweet, this is a really good club. I really like this, you know. And then then he was just like legit like, oh yeah, do like 100 star jumps. And I was like, oh yo, okay, that's pretty intense, whatever. And then he's like, do 100 push-ups, and I was just like laughing, because I was like, yeah, that's not physically possible. like no one can do that. Yeah. Unless you're a professional athlete, you know. Yeah. And then like all these dudes start busting them out, and then I'm like trying to get through them, and then I end up running to the toilet.
To be fair, on the 100 push-ups, I've not seen anyone do them with full range correct form.
Strict? Yeah.
But that's another, it's still fucking hard. Like when you're doing 500 at one point, I remember doing, any amount of cheating is allowed, but also it's still going to fucking burn, like no matter what. Yeah.
If you're doing anything properly, like 100 reps of anything.
I feel like the squats, I was able to do pretty decent form even on the like higher numbers, like the body weight squats, but you're not going ass to grass even there.
Yeah, and you're not going in that timing. 1, 2, 3, 4. You when you get to like 60, you're like 1, 2. Yeah. But the count's already gone past. Yeah. There's no way. You could do that. But so that kind of got.
There was always one maniac that was like leading the numbers, and you're like, bro, like just slow down. Like you're not. Oh fuck. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, completely. Oh, those were the days though. Those were good, man. Those were special days back then. So that kind of started to get me hooked, right? And then probably one of the other defining moments, there was this girl that was training there, and she like flying armbarred me, and I was like early 20s or whatever, and I think she was like 16 or 17 or something, and I was just like didn't know what to do, didn't know what I was just like, what the fuck is this? And I was just like, and it kind of walked out of there like, this can't be the end. Yeah. So like, it was just like, I can't be beaten. Like I just got like, you know, the ego and stuff like that or whatever. Like I was just like, I just couldn't handle it. I was just like, now I got to go back and learn this thing, you know? Yeah.
That's funny. There's people that go either way, right? It's like you can't handle the ego loss or the ego death per se. Right. And you stop training because you don't want to keep facing that. Or you go the other way, you go, nah, fuck that. Right. And then you keep training. I don't know exactly what makes a person go either one, like, you know, in either direction, but
I kind of feel like if you, like the more you walk in with, the more likely you're gonna walk away if your ego gets hurt. But like I said, like I walked in and I thought like, fuck, this room's full of like they're not like rugby player, fucking kickboxing, boxers or whatever. They were like these guys are pretty geeky, man, like average as people. And I was like, that's kind of what I am, like I'm like, well, actually a little bit worse than them.
Yeah. And
so then I was just like, oh, like that kind of gave me that, oh, I could be that. Like if I put in the time, I could do what they're doing, Whereas if you walk into like an All Blacks training or something, you're just like, yeah, there's no chance. Like I got like, and you get smashed, you're like, yeah, sweet. That's just for them, for the 1%ers or whatever. So I think I was like kind of like, I had that kind of, I could kind of see that I could get there.
Yeah. There is that thing because jiu-jitsu is so slow. Like, it's very like, I mean, everyone talks about how it's cerebral and all this shit, but like, because the pace is so slow, you have to actually know theory. Like you have to know, like you have to have the flow chart. You have to actually be able to like say, this is why I'm doing this. I want to go from here to here. This is this position that, right? Like it's literally like a base of knowledge that you could literally talk about. Whereas I feel like in boxing or like, anything like striking based or anything, like, yeah, there's the theory, sure, but it's so intuitive that someone could train a long time and kind of not even realize what they're doing probably. And still be like really good. You know what I mean? Because they're just like, it's just a feel, like a lot of it.
Yeah. I think this is part of it. And I think this is why, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but like, or might get you like, or get me in a lot of trouble. Why jiu-jitsu is so boring to watch. Right. And I think, because I think that's only part of what we should be teaching, right? There's the whole other part of it is that like what are you really proficient at? Like say body locking, right? Very good at body locking. How much are you actually in a body lock sitting there going, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this. Now, oh, he's doing this. So I'm going to do this, right? Like I think there's that. You build that map and then there's like the rest of the time you're building that like intuition and that feel and you just start doing things. Right? How many times have you come up to like get into that position and it's like not on, like all the criteria is not perfectly met, but you can navigate through that. Like that's jiu-jitsu, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like you need the intellectual understanding of the position to then bring it into your like intuitive feel. Right. But like what I'm saying, I guess, is that in boxing, it's just like much simpler, right? There's like, I don't know, 6 types of punches or some shit. Right. And then you just combine them in different ways and depending on the person's reaction. And like you could talk about the reactions, but ultimately you need to actually like have seen that reaction a bunch of times and then oh, it's coming, like the overhand right or whatever, you know what I mean? Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it's like if you don't know what you're aiming for in the body lock, you could sit with a body lock on there for ages and not figure it out. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I don't know what I should be doing. It's not so obvious.
Yeah. I think because I've been kind of like crossing over into like wrestling and judo, and I think they're like if we can take anything away from what they do, is that they do exactly the same thing. They have the exact same like map of like techniques and all this kind of stuff, but when they practice, they also practice at one point doing it as fast as possible. Yeah. And I'm like, we don't do that. Yeah. Like that's like our equivalent is rolling, right? And you're like, but why don't we get into a situation and train at 100% intensity? Yeah. And that's where I think you build this like this reaction, this like intuition, the feeling behind it.
But even like I feel like even something like wrestling, like judo I can't speak on because I'm absolute dog shit, but wrestling, right? I'm less dog shit. I'm still bad, but I'm less.
Like we're all crap at like
right? Yeah, but like I understand it. Like I can watch wrestling and be like, oh, this is kind of what he's trying to do. Whereas with judo, I have no fucking clue, if I'm being honest. But so like even with wrestling, right? There's still a lot more simplified of a game. Like that, like if you look at their curriculum for like high school, it's still like you just need a good single, you need a good double, you need a chain, you need it like so. It's like a kind of like you can cover it all in like 30 or so moves, and then just practice those over and over and get good at the transitions. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it might be like 30 per position or some shit. Like, you know what I mean? It might be like, this is how you pass when they have a knee shield. This is when you have a high, this is when they're like, they're pulling back. This is when they're pulling forward. Like, it's just so deep, you know?
Yeah. Well, then my question is this then, like, how many different single legs are there? And how many different ways to finish the single leg, and how many different responses to the single leg are there? Because
that's true. Yeah, there's flow charts within that. That's true.
Right. When you get into like wrestling and you start looking at all the ifs, you're like, no, this is almost as deep as jiu-jitsu, right? And if you think about jiu-jitsu in the same way that you just like kind of broke down wrestling, there's a single, there's a double, you know, you need all these probably like a good duck under and a rear body lock or something. Like there's like a few positions that you must have, and you must have we use like dilemmas or whatever. Like you must have like a couple options from that position, right? And if that doesn't work, you must be able to chain into something else, right? If you build that map in jiu-jitsu, it's actually pretty small.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, that's true. You could simplify the general. Like you need a long range guard, you need a shorter range guard,
right?
You need escapes from all positions, obviously,
right?
And then passing all the different types of closed types of guards, and then long range passing, and then you're kind of there,
right?
And then subs, obviously, but yeah. So I guess you're right. Yeah,
because if you look at like the top players, like the Busheshas, the Gordon Ryans, the Mendes brothers, like all of these guys, like even Mikey Musumeci at the moment, because he's tearing it up, right? You look at them and you look at their style. They don't do like a million different things.
It's all the high percentage shit.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, yeah.
And they just like their whole thing is like they can funnel you into what they're good at, and then they just like, guess what? I'm better than you in this position. You lose.
Yeah. Keenan Cornelius said this like analogy, which I've started realizing, and it's pretty fucking cool, but then also makes you feel like you don't know shit at the same time, because he talks about how jiu-jitsu is like a pie,
right?
And like you'll get like getting to black belt is just like slicing a tiny little line in that pie and being like, this is the shit I know. This is what I'm like really good at. And then you can funnel them into that like little slice and you're just like going through your game. But then you get to black belt and you're like, oh, all right, I can start a new slice and I don't know shit here. Yeah. And it's just endless of constantly trying to gather more like surface area of this fucking pie, but you never quite get to everything anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Like, I think that's pretty accurate, right? I think the way I kind of think about black belt, it's like you have enough knowledge to start like learning.
All right. Wait. This is a good clippable TikTok. So just quickly go through the belts. What do they mean for you?
Oh, okay. White belt is the like if anything, it's like the day that you decide to put a white belt on, you're like, I now know what I don't know. Like I know that like there's a whole lot of stuff out there that I don't know how to do, right? And then like I think like blue belt for me is like, I kind of think of it like I've learned all the tools. I know what a drill does. I know what a screwdriver does. I know what a hammer does. So I'm not going to try to hammer a nail with a screwdriver anymore, right? Like, so when you get to blue belt, you're like, okay, I know which tools when to use them. Can I build a house? No. There's no way I can, but I know them. Right?
I've learned how to screw in a screw. I've learned how to hammer a nail.
Right.
To do past that, fuck knows, but
right. Yeah. So then you got all these tools that you're like, but I don't know. Like I know how to use them, but I don't even know how to get into the situation to use them. Right. Mm-hmm. At purple belt, I think for me anyway, and I think this is where like translation kind of comes in, right? Like it's all different for everyone. Purple belt, I think, is like you start to realize I'm good at screwing screws in. Like I'm good at hammering nails. So I should probably hammer more nails. I probably shouldn't start to, put the screwdriver down and start hammering the hammer, right? Using the hammer. And then you're like, oh, wait, what's going to help me with the hammer? Maybe better nails or a better hammer or like, and you start getting better at that one thing, right? And you start getting, and then you're like, wait, but like to hammer, I need wood. And then so you get good at like choosing wood and and then you start like expanding out your game that way, right? It's like from one direction out, right? And I think that's like super, super like important in your journey, right? Because I think that's what gives you your identity. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's a hammer hand. Oh, he's a screwdriver guy. Oh, he learned how to like cut wood first or whatever, like. And so like I think that's purple belt. I think brown belt is when you're like, you start to realize I'm very good at hammering nails, but in this situation, it probably would have been better to use a screw.
Mm-hmm.
And when that penny drops, you're like, oh, I need to learn all the other tools better so that I can be more efficient, right? Because like purple belts, I remember my purple belt days anyway, I was just like young enough to roll hard enough, you know? And I was just like, yeah, I can use a screw here, but like I'm just going to hammer that nail in so hard that it's like it works, you know? And I think that's brown belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think black belt is when you're like, oh, okay. After learning all these different things, I realize now how to like, I could kind of start to build a house. But you can't build a house yet. You still can't build a house, but you can be like, I get it. Like I need to use screws in this position, and I need to have wood here, and I need to have jib here, and I need to have this, and you know, and then and like that's the start of it. And you think you can build a house, but you can, like when you first get your black belt, in reality, you can build a tree house.
Every black belt watching right now is so pissed. Treehouse, really? All I get? Yeah. Fuck, man.
Because when you start building the house and you start building, and then you build the treehouse, you're like, that's not exactly what I thought. But then once you built the treehouse, you're like, actually, I realize how deep this goes. I can actually build a mansion with a spa pool and all this kind of, you know, like you can have the most beautiful thing, but like I know how to get there. And I think that's what the black belt's about. It's like, I know how to get to where I want to go now. Whereas this is blue belt, you're just like, what? You use a hammer there? Why do you use a hammer? Why can't you just use this? And you know, like, why don't I just use my hand to hit it in or whatever? You know, like, and that's what I mean. Like, it kind of gives you this like vision and this awareness that you're like, oh, I kind of get it now, right? And that's just like, I think that's just like purely the technical side of it, right? Obviously, there's all the maturity and all the other kind of mindset and all that kind of stuff. But like, that's how I kind of see the belts.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty spot on for like from my experience as well. I resonate with that. I mean, I guess like from my perspective at blue belt, I got really confident in my escapes.
Right.
So I guess in the same way, it's like I know the techniques and like, you know, like I could be like, oh, side control, I know an escape. Oh, this, I know an escape, you know? So it was just like, I wasn't worried about trying things because I could, you know, I felt like I could get out of stuff because I could recognize every position and be like, oh yes, I can do this, you know? And then, as I said, that purple is like the slice, like I started understanding that slice thing of like, you're getting good at one thing and it's like, oh, right. So this is like, you know, how it is to get good at one thing.
Right.
And then there's a million other things I could like get good at to this level, you know, and it's like, oh fuck, there's so many holes. Like, to be honest, my confidence got worse at purple belt.
Bro, right?
Like, because I'm like, oh right, there's so much shit I suck. Like at blue belt, I'm like, bro, I'm getting good at this. At purple belt, I'm like, no.
You're not even close. Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. I think the thing about like I think people talk about it, but not as much as they should. I think like when you say you're getting good at the slice, what's the actual skill you're picking up, right? Like you're not actually, you are getting better at, like, say, body locking or whatever, but you're actually getting better at like mastering something. So like learning to master something is a skill in itself. Yeah. And I think that's what I mean. Like, you're starting to get these keys to be like, oh, I've got the formula to get good at something. If I apply that same formula to, say, like arm bars, you can get good at arm bars. Yeah.
Like I feel like, as you said, like at blue belt, you don't even know what it takes to get good at something.
Right.
Like, you know, so it's like at purple, it's like the penny drops of like, oh shit, that's what it takes to get good at something. Right. And then you're like, fuck, I got so many other things I need to do. Like, now you start to like go, oh, I need this. And like, I think I've told you, like, when I was young, I used to play chess, for clubs and stuff. And, like, I was just getting stuck at this rating because I was just like, from my internal experience at the time, I was like 12 years old. I would just like play a good game, be real like close, you know, like maybe 1 point difference, you know, 1 pawn difference, whatever. Maybe I'm winning, and then make a dumb mistake and lose. And I'm like, why does that keep happening? I don't understand how to fix this problem. Right.
Yeah.
And then looking at it now with like having gotten good at a lot of different things, it's like, oh, right. My tactics, like I didn't do enough tactic training. So I was missing easy tactics. Number one. End game, I sucked at. Clearly I couldn't, like, I had a 1 pawn advantage, couldn't capitalize. Okay, clearly need to practice end games. So, you know, and then it's just like all these things I can break down and be like, oh, this is how to get better. And it's like now I'm not frustrated when like I'm just playing casually because I don't, I'm not into it that much. But like if I lose, I'm like actually not frustrated because I'm like, oh, I just need to do this. And it's just applying. It's just like life experience, I guess. But getting good at shit definitely translates because I can definitely without having I haven't played chess since that time. Yeah. So there's nothing else changed. It's just like my understanding of getting good at things.
Yeah. Exactly right. That's what I think. Like I think because like going on the judo journey. Shout out Linton. Because he's an absolute beast.
Yeah.
Going on the judo journey, like putting the white belt back on and trying to go through the judo thing. It's like so awesome. Like, and you approach it so differently because you know how to be like a better white belt. You know how to be a better student. It's kind of strange because it's like, because I've got like, I hate saying that I got like mastery in something because it feels like mastery kind of sounds like final, but like, you've gotten good at something. And so you know how to get good at something. So you're like, when I go for it this time, the journey is going to be so much more enjoyable. Right. I
mean, there's also the crossover of skill, right? Like grappling is grappling. And at the end of the day, right? So you're going to, like I remember I used to think it was 6 months, but I reckon like a year-ish. Yeah. Like I was still learning how to move. I remember doing like inversion drills and not getting it, or like, you know what I mean? Like just even movement was difficult. So it's hard to even like begin to learn jiu-jitsu when you can't even control your body in a way to move it the way you want it to. Yeah. Like, so 100%. Like if you've skipped that part, like a lot of athletes come in and they're like, rugby players and shit and it's like, bro, you have such an advantage, not because you're like athletic, but more because you can actually control your body.
Yeah, that's true. True.
Yeah. So I definitely find that.
And saying that, like, because obviously I've taken up the like gone on the striking route with Cam and stuff like that too. And same thing, kind of thing. Like they move so much different to like grapplers, right? Like it's just like a different energy system, a different even different muscle fibers and different muscle groups that you use, right?
Ben Askren can attest to that.
Yeah, right. Good point, yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
One of the like greatest wrestlers, but like man,
even Damian Maia was better in striking. Right? Jesus, that's
But yeah, even then, I can still apply the same thing, right? Like there's this weird thing that like kind of I think about a lot now is like coaches don't just randomly say stuff. Like after coaching for a while, like I don't just randomly say something like put your thumb inside the armpit, like a thumb put. Like I don't just randomly say that. Like I'm saying it for a specific reason, right? But you'll see like so many students will just overlook it, right?
I remember this. It's like, I remember being the white belt and like a lot of the times it would be like a pass and there was an emphasis on maintaining a grip. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like I passed,
right.
And it took me years to be like, oh, right. Like if I hold on to that grip, I'm going to be dominating the next part of the next chain. Yeah. So like I'm setting myself up for like 2 chains down.
Right.
But like I could not see that at white belt. And I mean, maybe it was like, it wasn't emphasized as well. It was just like, do this. Yeah. And so because I couldn't like understand, I would forget that detail instantly because I'm like, that's not important. Let me focus on the pass.
Yeah.
That's huge. I remember that.
Right. And I think, so like if you go like one step back from that and you go like, when like that's like you get a grip and then you actually complete the pass and you kind of like let go of the grip or whatever, right? And that's like you actually got through the movement, right? But in striking, like what I've found is that like they'll be like, they'll say something like kick with your hip, like kick from the hip, right? Kick from the hip, right? And then you'll kick and you're like, boom, and they're like, oh yeah, no, like rotate your hip over and you're like, bang, you're like, yeah. And then you're like the kick from your hip, and I'm like, why do you keep saying the same thing? Like, dude, like I'm kicking from the hip, right?
Right.
But like clearly I'm not, right? And so like as a more experienced kind of learner, I kind of sit in there and be like, why does he keep telling me this? What does he actually want me to do? Like, and like that question in itself, that curious mind enables you to learn faster, right?
And you notice like, you like from the perspective of being a coach, you already say, oh, he's telling me to kick the kick. That means my kick sucks. Like I'm not doing it.
Right.
As opposed to just like, oh, sweet, thanks for the tip. Yeah. And then just keep doing what you're doing.
Right. And then he'll say something like he's like, look over your shoulder. And then I'm like, when he tells me to do that and I'll do a kick and I'll be like, why would he tell me to look over my shoulder? like, shouldn't I always be looking at my opponent? I'm like, what is that doing to my body? Like, why am I, and I'm like, oh, that's what he wants me to do. And then you kind of like, and that's why you can kind of learn faster, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got this mastery thing, you got this view of like, oh, everything they're telling me isn't just to tell me to do something. They're trying to get me to move or do a certain thing. And so I think that kind of helps a lot, right? Like in your kind of, when you've like learned how to master something, right? You can kind of apply that to everything now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, let me ask you this, right? So when Maddie came on, we talked about like memes. Size discrepancy.
Memes, a lot of memes.
That was good.
Yeah.
But no, size discrepancy and how you know, like that's one of the sort of the common things. It's like jiu-jitsu's for the small guy and da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, I mean, skill, generally speaking, like if you're a really solid striker, you could probably smash a guy bigger than you that doesn't know how to strike. You know what I mean? Like it's just universal, like skill will often trump size. What do you, like from your perspective, so like I've had small blue belts, right? Brand new blue belts be like discouraged that they're like getting smashed by some big white belt. And I sort of have like, my perspective of it was always like, oh, like if you're the same like like if you're a brand new white belt, brand new blue belt, brand new purple belt, et cetera, that like jump in one level will account for like 10 kgs of athletic weight. That was like my thing. I mean, I don't know if it's accurate, but yeah, it was more so because the guy was getting discouraged. So I was like, you know, if they're like your size and you're getting smashed, then maybe that's a problem. If they're bigger than you, you know, just take it with a grain of salt, keep working technique. What's your take on that? Like, what's the, you know, what's the discrepancy that someone should be aiming for to beat size, I guess? I think past the point, it doesn't matter, but well, we're going to look into that. But
yeah. I mean, like Buchecha versus Mikey Musumeci, who wins? Who, like, you had to bet everything you own. Like there's not even a choice. Like that's why there's weight classes, right? And that's why, like, who wins absolute, right? Like pretty much like man, you're a controversial podcast because this is going to go out to like lots of jits guys and they're going to be like, what? Size matters, 100% matters. Like physicality matters, and I like to say physicality because not just size, like athleticism, physicality matters a lot, right? Because when like a wrestler, I mean maybe not a wrestler because they're like got grappling skills, right? Like a rugby player comes in, like a top level rugby player, say like Tano Umaga or something, right? If he came in, right, and he's a blue belt and he fights a purple belt, right? Like, dude, like you think that purple belt's going to just like shred him to pieces? No, no way, right? Athleticism matters, right? And I think size and athleticism and physicality doesn't matter when the skill gap is big enough, right? And I guess the question you're asking is like, what's that gap, right? What should it be? And I don't think there's like a hard and fast rule, like. And this is where I think the belt system kind of falls over, right? Because they're like our blue belts are definitely different to other blue belts, and other blue belts are different, right? Like, you know,
and Maddie was winning fucking advanced divisions at blue belt, so you know, there's obviously outliers, like
and especially now, like on the world, if we compare to the world stage, like the Rotolo brothers were beating black belts at blue belt when they were blue belts, and because of age and all that. But regardless, like, so you can't that measuring stick of blue belt versus purple belt doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I'm asking on like a general average person. You know, like there's like a general idea of what you expect from, you know, like when I was blue belt, if I couldn't you know, deal with a brand new white belt that was spazzy, I'd be pissed at myself. Yeah, like, even if they were bigger, you know. So like that's sort of the
I think that's valid. I think that's a valid thing, right? Like I think if you got a blue belt, you should be able to deal with like pretty much all white belts that are untrained and you know what I mean? And they can be physical and bigger than you, but that you should be able to deal with them, right? But I think after blue belt, it gets tricky, right? It gets really tricky because, like I said, like maybe you're like you know, like styles kind of like kind of other styles, and like you could get a blue belt, a brand new blue belt that just knows how to just use that drill, right? And he just like fucking just like lands it, and you just like, fuck, damn, that's the weakness for me, man. Like if he used a hammer, I would have been all good. Yeah. And like, you know, and I think that's the hard thing about jiu-jitsu because like it's just like so varied, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like obviously, yeah, as you say, like there's the crossover and like grappling and whatnot, because I've gone against, like, I used to have this thing of like, I want my shit to work on the biggest people possible.
Yeah.
So when it, like, up until, I don't know, when just after I got my purple, maybe,
Right.
I was literally, anytime there was a heavyweight,
Yeah.
let's match up.
Right,
like
right,
every
yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
you know, just try to arm drag, try to move around them, all this stuff. Because I was always like, well, if it doesn't work on them, like my shit sucks. Like I don't care,
Right.
like
Yeah.
about the size, right? Then I started getting injured, and I'm like, no, I think I'll I've proven that to myself. I don't need to keep doing that because I fucked my knees up, and anyway, right. So like I've gone with huge people, and like I know what I can do. And then I went recently with this MMA guy that was doing his camp. I didn't know. We're working on the wall, and he's probably like, I don't know, 90 kgs. So it's like pretty like unassuming looking guy unless you see him with the shirt off, right? But like guy just folded me, man. I was like, I had double unders. He just fucking whoop and just folded me in half, and I was like, holy shit. So it's very like depends on who's right. Like it's hard to really say.
Right, that's the thing, right? And like for me, I do think there's a sweet spot, like, and this is like fully like Joe theory, like just made up kind of thing. But I feel like around 85 kgs up is kind of like a different bracket. Like you can see like a 85, 90 kg guy winning absolute, right? But like anything under that, you're like, I don't think you have, and like history has kind of shown that, right? Like most of the guys under 80 kgs don't even like enter into like absolute because it matters, right? But like for some reason, like an 85 kg dude can kind of take on like a 110 kg guy, and I think there's just like a certain level of like force and energy that you can produce, like,
just physics,
right? Like, and I think I'm like, if that's true, then like, bro, like size and physicality 100% matters, right?
Yeah, one of the examples that people were giving was we have the video queued up. The Haftor, the Mountain versus Gordon Ryan, and everyone was like, "Bro, see, jiu-jitsu does." It's like that is literally. They first of all did the same bracket, plus 99.
Right.
So they were in the same category essentially.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he's a 50 kgs heavier with abs, but like it's the best guy in the world we're talking about. like if he couldn't beat him, that's a fucking problem.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So have you seen that? Yeah. And then actually, okay, well, we can put it on just like for that first sequence, because that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
If you're able to turn it.
There you go.
Other one. It's fine. Okay, we'll leave it at this one. So this one was another. I think I'm not sure how good, like how competitively successful this guy is. Yeah. But he's a black belt. Yeah. And this was my sort of example of like when size can be too fucking much, because you're not talking about the best guy in the world. Yeah. You're talking about a black belt that, I don't know, could be better than average or just a black belt. Yeah. So yeah, press play. And you can see like this is. Like I would not want to do this. That's all I'm saying. Not a small guy.
Almost. They have butterflies with the almost managed. You can press them up now, it's do every. That's
Well, he's quitting my neck. At this point, like I was telling him, like, you're still in my guard, so I'm
still technically have guard now. There's a move that's called the feed.
But it's still the idea of like,
push his head and you put it in between your chest.
He just fucking I can't move.
You know my neck is doing in front of your body.
But you're right? You'd want him to stop passing to give it openings so that you can try
but like,
counter.
Bump him up.
Even like if they told before, like, well, if you can squash this guy.
Strength it, yes, Josh! Come on, Josh!
Right, so what did they tell you? Just have a good
Yeah, that's true. That could curl his whole body. Like that's what I'm saying. Is that there's a point where like weight and size fucking matters.
Yeah, 100%.
Plan B, Josh is right there.
Look at the size of this guy, man.
2 minutes is up.
That's ridiculous. His leg is like the size of
Foot away from the wall, please. Forward, don't use the wall.
I reckon if he just squeezed his body, like just squeeze his body. I mean, maybe
Oh my god!
I feel like he could crush his skull.
that's
Yes,
what I'm saying.
wait, on you?
It is in the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, wait, actually get
be
back.
surprised.
Okay, just like that.
Oh, because that guy, I think that guy can
Okay.
make 400 kg.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, they go again, and then I think he does like sweep him at some point or something.
right.
But the point is, right? Like, there's a certain level. Like, we had that pretty heavy wrestling guy. He's a new guy at our gym.
Right.
He's,
The South African guy?
yeah. And I roll with him. And fuck, man, he got like instantly straight to a cradle.
Yeah.
From guard somehow. I don't even know. And I'm like, okay, like nothing. Like I'm chilling, but I can't move. Like I can't break this.
Right.
You know. And then he let go, and I was like, all right, sweep, guillotine.
Yeah.
You know. But like I was like, okay, well, you could just like straight up hold me there for 10 minutes. I couldn't do shit. You know. So there's a certain level where it's like you're just big enough, strong enough, where it's like you get to a certain spot, squeeze the shit out of his chest, and that's it.
Yeah, right, 100%. Yeah. That's the thing, right? Like, and I think that you kind of like highlighted one of the, man, yeah, we're being real controversial now. One of the things that like I think the jiu-jitsu guys are guilty of, right? Of like, oh, like you got into a position, but you can't hurt me. You know, and you're like, oh yeah, no, like so, like this guy, like, oh, you're my guard, bro. Like, you got to do something else, and you're like, well, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, he's
like
chilling.
Is this real? Because if this is real, he doesn't have to do shit, right? What are you gonna do? Because you're on the bottom, and if he holds you there long enough, you're gonna want to do something. You're not gonna just be like chilling. Right?
If we're talking street fight, I mean, that's the last. Like one guy's holding you down
100%.
while his mate's coming around. You got to get the fuck up,
right? Oh,
you know?
Even like let's just say that that's a no time limit like grappling match. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
If this guy's just like, bro, I'm gonna stay here for like hours, bro. Like, how much energy was he using for hours? Like, what are you actually gonna do? Right? Like, you're not gonna like you know. And I think like that's like like jiu-jitsu is pretty guilty of that, right? If someone cradles you, you're like, oh yeah, cool. I'm not in danger of submission. I'm just gonna chill. And you're like, yeah.
I mean, that's literally what I was thinking. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I sure, I'm safe, but I don't fucking like this.
Yeah.
Like,
and how long can you stay there for? And like, we can practice like being in uncomfortable positions because we're pretty good at that. Like, to be honest, we are. And that's one of the like key things for jiu-jitsu, right? Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable kind of thing. But when someone's got you in a cradle and they're just like holding you there and you're like, actually, I could do this for the next 5 minutes. And like, who would actually have really won that if we did that for 5 minutes? Like kind of the other guy, right? So we have to, and I think that's like one of the bad things about the jiu-jitsu mindset. Like, the more you learn, like the more I've been learning like wrestling and stuff like that, you're more, I'm like, oh man, they're like actual animals, bro. Like they're savage, bro.
go.
Yeah. They're like, don't accept anything.
Yeah. And it's Joel was saying that it's like a lot of mental stuff as well, right? Because like, if I really think about it, did I really use all my gas tank, or did I just concede us at like the third takedown attempt?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
And I think it's probably not the gas tank part. You know, it is that like you're just so tired and your mental just goes fucking just chill.
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Like I can get into guard or this like position and I can be safe.
Yeah.
And like I know that you can't sub me from there. I know how much work you have to do to like actually put me in danger. Let me just like recover. And I get that that's part of like jiu-jitsu strategy and stuff like this, like tire out your opponent and stuff like that too. But I think if we want to take jiu-jitsu to the next level, we got to get this like aggression and like, man, like if you wrestle for like 2 minutes, like there's a reason why they don't go for 5 minutes at the highest level of wrestling. Yeah, because you just can't, right? And that was that in those Wednesday lunchtime classes. Shout out to the lunchtime crew, Wednesday. They're like those are so intense, right? And like, but that's what we're developing there, right? Like it's like just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And the funniest thing, like Joel, actually funny, he said like, in general, you only feel tired when you stop.
Yeah, that's true.
And like when he said that, I was like, you're so right. Like, and actually,
Although the mind will scream at you,
yeah,
but you can keep going.
right.
But if you've stopped, fuck,
Right.
that's done.
And that's what I've been like. That's what I think it's for. Like, you develop the mind to keep going in those situations, right? And so like, I have these mad like back and forths with like Logan. Like, it's just crazy, right? Like, and we're like, and then like he's not gonna give anything, and I'm not gonna give anything, and like it's just such a good back and forth. We try to get like stay in there, and I remember going. I think I went like 2.5 minutes was the longest I went, and I was fine. And then as soon as he got the takedown, right, boom, and he like locked me down and he kept me stuck, and I was like trying to get out, and I was trying to keep going. Like as soon as it was over, holy shit, like my lungs were burning, my head was spinning. I was just like, I've never been this tired, like years.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, how was I fine like 2 seconds ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, that's so true. Developing that mind to just keep going, you're okay.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like I need to train that more in training. Because when I'm competing, and I don't do it often, but every time I've done it, it just comes naturally because of the high stakes.
Right.
Like I'm like,
Right.
I fight that inner fucking bitch, like tooth and claw, you know. But in the training, it's like it doesn't really matter,
Right.
you know. So it's so easy to, and like the biggest thing now is that, especially with like the higher level people in the gym, like I'll work 100%, just leave it all on to try to get the tap. And then I get the tap, and then I'm like, fuck, I have to go again now. And then my mind just gives up. Like the second I'm like, I got the tap, let me survive. Fucking terrible. You know, I hate it when it happens, but it's so hard not to do because you've just spent so much energy to try to submit. Yeah. And then now you're like, oh, we have to go again, and now he's pissed. Fuck.
Right. That's so right. But yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to like develop with like some of the guys, right? And I'm this big believer of like focused effort when you train. Like I don't like going like you walk into the training room and you come in and you're like, I'm going to work arm bars today, but I'm also going to work like going hard out, and I'm going to also work the mindset of like not giving up, and I'm going to just like keep going and all this, and you like have all this stuff every time you walk into the training room. I don't like that. That's not very smart, right? For, like it's not good use of your energy, I think, you know. Like, so if you're coming in to learn arm bars, like go and develop arm bars, right? And work them as much as you can. And that's what I think like the Shark Tanks are for, right? Like it's like, actually today it's not necessarily just about technique. This is actually the mindset stuff. And like, let's focus on building that mindset now. Let's focus on building like discipline under fatigue.
Yeah. But that is almost like cardio. Like it goes so quick, man. That mindset training goes away so quick.
100%.
It's so much energy to maintain that.
Yeah. And you don't even know it's gone though. So with cardio, like you know, we have like a week off or something, you go on holiday, I can feel it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be rough. Yeah. But the mindset, you're like, nah, I've been to that dark place before. I'll be sweet. I can go there. And then you start feeling it and you're like, oh shit, can't feel my legs. I'm like heavy and I'm like, oh, my lungs are on fire. I want to give up. So yeah, I get it. But that's why I think, like we got to do it more often, and we got to have but targeted things, right? For it. Like, and I think that's the
because I always find like on that ramp up before comps, when I when I've done like the last 2 comps, I did like pretty I actually prepared for a comp. You know, it wasn't like I'm just going to train, and I always felt like it like I was just I developed that mindset that month leading up or whatever. Yeah, and then come back and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna learn new stuff, and then that shit's gone. Right? Like it takes energy to bring that back, you know. Yeah.
I think it's like the way I try to like structure the classes and stuff like that is like to have a baseline for everything. Like, so like I understand you're never going to be in top like mental condition for like say like competition like every day, right? That's pretty tough. But you're also not going to be in like cardio condition, like top of your game, and you're not going to be as sharp and stuff like that. You're like, you know, like even just like brain activity wise. And so I think like if rather than actually like going up to 100 and then coming back down to 10, if we can like go up to 100 for camps, but like our normal range is like around 30 or 40, you're kind of good, right?
Because it's easy to just bump it up.
Like, and then that lifts the average standard across the gym all the time, right? So like everyone can kind of go there quite often, you know, like, and I think that's kind of important. So trying to, yeah, that's tough. That's when like focused effort has to come. Like if you knew like once a week you're going to be training mindset, and you knew once a week you're going to be training cardio, like that, your average level is going to be there, right? It's going to stay there, right?
Yeah.
But then that does ask a lot, right? Because you got like mindset, you got cardio, you got technique, and then like, oh, for you to get like your average level up, you got to come 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And then people are going to be like, yeah, nah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I find the hardest part about training that much, and I don't know how the fuck these people do it, man. Like Brad and shit, I don't understand. And I need to talk to them properly, and like maybe I'm just not sleeping enough or some shit. But like I feel like fucked. Like, I'm just like my body is just fucking goners, man. Like I don't know how people train so much.
I think
like,
it's
twice a days and shit, like far out.
It's like kind of like I think you got to like think about it like in 2 different ways though. Like, are you physically fucked or mentally fucked?
I think there's periods when I get mentally fucked, and that's like kind of in the same vein as like I've talked to ad nauseum about my fucking obsessions and shit. Yeah. But when obsession like fades away from me, like for me, I get like this depressive fucking cycle of like nothing's fun. I'm fucking in a rut, you know, all this stuff. And that's when sometimes I'll rock up to training and I'm like not actively working on anything. Like my only goal is to be at training. Yeah. And like that's okay for me because I know like it might be like a week and then I'm like back into fucking obsessing about moves and shit. But so that's that. But usually like, you know, it'll be like genuinely I'm hurting. My body hurts.
So like physically hurting. Yeah. So then like there's like kind of 2 kind of trains of thought that I kind of, or 2 things that I've kind of been like listening to about that, like overtraining and all this kind of stuff, right? So for Syzygy, I watched one of his podcasts and he says like, for some reason, all sports, all combat sports, 100% combat sports, but most sports, bar BJJ, for some reason, like BJJ like removed conditioning as part as a prerequisite for jiu-jitsu. Like all other sports will have conditioning as part of it. Like it's just mandatory. Like, you know, it's just built in. Like it's not like you have to go get a strength. Like in jiu-jitsu, it's like, you want to get like real peak condition, go get a strength and conditioning plan, right? But like wrestlers can literally like go to wrestling and they'll do like strength and conditioning as part of wrestling. Yeah. You know, like, and it's like why we don't have it is like, I think this is like one of the things why people burn out, right? Because we ask them to like go hard and then you're like, wait, but like you're not physically doing anything for it, right? Like most of the guys at the gym, you can see like their injuries are because they're not doing enough strength and conditioning, right? And it's not like, I don't mean like go to the weights and lift heavy weights, bro. Like actually strength and conditioning to like strengthen yourself. That's
what I was gonna say, because the weight stuff is can help, but often is not the thing that you need. Like if I'm you know get bit. I mean, to be honest, doing like knee over toe squats helped my knee injuries, so that was good. Yeah. But doing like getting real strong squat, like it's okay. Like, but like my biggest stuff that I've found improvement in with injury wise is like band work. You know what I mean? Like shit that like does not feel good. Like it's not like, oh yeah, I'm getting fucking, it's just like,
bro.
You know?
But that's what it is, right? Like strength and conditioning. You're strengthening and conditioning your body to be able to take the damage that you're going to do in your training room, right? And I think that's where everyone kind of drops the ball a little bit because they're like, oh, just go get a gym membership, City Fitness, $7 and just bang out some weights and I'll be sweet. I'm doing the extra work. And I'm like, no, it's nothing like that, right? And then that's not even including the like recovery and the rehab stuff, which you're talking about, like knees over toes help me recover from my knee injury. Like that's recovery stuff. That's not like strength and conditioning. I mean, outside.
Pre-injury stuff. Yeah,
right. And you're like, how many people do that stuff? People don't, right? And like to the point where like, I mean, you've got imbalances in your body, right? And like, what does like not being able to activate your left shoulder mean? Like you know, like, or this muscle in your shoulder, like, and this muscle in your arm properly, like it means that the rest of your body is going to compensate. Yeah. And like, so then you should be in the strength and conditioning room, like getting that muscle to activate, getting that muscle to fire so that you don't have this like corrective imbalance, you know?
Yeah. And there's certain movements, like, cause I'm still trying to put on some fucking muscles, right? So like, I'm trying to like get the happy medium of like, I'm doing actual like prehab work and, you know, so like, for example, instead of doing military press, even though I'm not like doing it as heavy. Now I do like kettlebell press,
Right.
and I try to like work the stabilizers because it's so hard to, and like that fixed a lot of my posture shit.
Right.
So I'm not like I'm doing an 8 kg. It's fucking, it's not going to build muscle really, but like, it's like, okay, well, I'll compromise instead of, on the days I would do military, I'll do this fucking bullshit ass stability work, So I don't know, like it's hard, like finding the time, finding, when you're actually able to actually, in terms of like, sometimes I'm just too sore to go and bust out like heavy sets. I don't know. It's I don't know.
I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think coming back to that, like focused effort, like trying to put on weight while trying to rehab, or trying to it's like, do I want to put on weight or do I want to lose weight or do I want to like get into like physical condition before I can do something? Like you got to have this like,
unless you're doing it full time, in which case then you have the time to do everything and you can take 3 naps a day and you do all that kind of shit.
Yeah. Oh, but and if you look at the athletes and stuff like that, you see how much like I'm gonna go lift, bro. They do like very minimal. Very minimal. Like they're always in the gym doing like real functional stuff. Like that's going to help them be better at their sport.
Oh, I mean, Gordon Ryan does like bodybuilding shit. But
yeah. Actually, that's a funny thing. Like actually, yeah, I think that's quite. It's interesting because I think actually bodybuilding style of lifting actually translates over to jiu-jitsu quite well.
Because it's kind of endurance as well, right?
Yeah, right.
That 10 rep range. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And like you're gonna try to lift as heavy as you can, as often as you can, right? Like whereas like in striking, it's like explode, boom, like for the punch, for the kick, kind of thing, So I think that's actually kind of works well for them. That's why
a lot of these high level athletes are on recovery acai. So
yeah, and those supplements in America are just better than ours.
That protein powder is really hitting in over there, right?
Yeah, creatine over there apparently is awesome. Actually on that, right, like they actually do have much more supplements over there that are like that are pretty legit. Oh,
you mean non like PED or tainted?
Non-PED.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They take like there's so much stuff in New Zealand that like you can't get. That over there is just like completely normal.
You can't get because it's like regulated, or you can't get because.
I assume like things like so like peptides and stuff like that.
Ah, okay.
Some peptides over there are like you can actually take for sport, and it's like just recovery stuff. But you can't get here. We can't get peptides at all in New Zealand.
Like you can't even ship them in. Like it's regulated, or
like I think you could ship them in, but if you get them, you get them. If you don't, you don't.
Right, gotcha.
Like so. I think that's what I mean. Like over there, they are actually on so much more stuff. So they can actually train a lot more than us because
and CBD for recovery and all this other shit.
Like that kind of stuff. Yeah, like so their supplement range, although
stem cells if they need it. Yeah.
Although there are
there's always avenues, right? There's always some workarounds.
Yeah. But so I think like for us and stuff like that, trying to balance everything, it is quite hard,
and then I mean, like I always can forget that, like, because working with a dad at the moment, heavy lifting tiles and shit, and I'm like, why do I feel so? It's like, bro, I'm literally in a bent over position lifting semi like heavy weight all day,
right?
And then I'm wondering why my back's tight. It's like. But it's just because I see my dad and he doesn't seem to be affected. So I'm just why am I such a bitch?
But your dad's like an outlier, man. Like, how old is, like your dad's like, how old's your dad? Like
48, 49,
And like when he takes his shirt off, man, I'm like, man, I don't want to take my shirt off in front of that guy. Like, are you serious?
Right, it's the worst. Everyone's like, why does your dad look better than you? I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Although if you see his legs, then you're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
He's got them sticks.
Yeah. But he is so athletic and so strong for his, like, it's just ridiculous. He's like got to be in the best shape, like for his age, like that I've ever seen. Like, yeah, he's more athletic than most of the young guys at our club.
Bro, can you imagine if he started taking testosterone?
Oh, bro. He should, bro.
Because bro, I tell you, I mean, people probably won't believe, but like, if he's got a headache, I'm like, bro, take a Panadol. He's like, no, it's a pill. Me and mom had to convince him to take some supplement because it was like in a capsule. He's like, oh, it's a pill. I'm like, bro, it's fine. Yeah. So he's very much like, I'd rather just drink water or whatever the fuck, So
dude,
can't convince him to take tests, but
bro, he should. Like, he will be like an absolute monster.
Fuck.
Jesus, can you imagine that? Like, he'll just come back and just rip everyone apart. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but Steve, I think like his game's so intuitive. Because he's always had trouble explaining like people what to do. Like I was just been like randomly like fucking around with him at work or whatever, and he's just still kind of annoying to deal with. Still digging for underhooks and like you know, he's been out for a while, but I reckon he'll bounce back pretty quick if he comes back.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that I haven't really explored too much from a coaching perspective. But like some people can like naturally make good decisions. And I guess that kind of falls under that class of like talent. But I think people just say talent because it's like easier to just like categorize it as talent. Like, what is it? You know, like you know, like people will say like Maddie's talented, and I'm like, I almost feel like that's like kind of robbing him of what he does and
the amount of time he puts in.
Yeah, and his skills, his natural skills that he does. Like they're like, oh, he's talented, and I'm like, what about his like decision making?
Yeah, but like he's talented, but if he put in the same amount of time as I would, he would not have the results he has.
Yeah, right.
Like he'll be better than me or whatever. He's definitely like a gifted athlete, but like the amount of mat time that motherfucker has, he's always drilling. I swear to God, like constantly trying to find people to drill and like, he's always doing shit, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to like I can pull back the curtain and like let everyone know that like he does drill a lot. Like don't get me wrong, but it does happen in cycles, right? It's not like every single day he's like fucking drilling 5 times a day or whatever. You know, it's nothing like that, you know? And I think, and everyone just says like, I don't know, like say he drills an extra 4 times a week. So say he puts in an extra 5 hours a week compared to you, right? If you put in that same 5 hours, do you think you'd be as good as him?
No, but he's been doing that since I remember like him being blue belt and stuff. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's like cumulative over time, you know?
So if you think that you put in the same amount of time,
no, there's definitely a talent aspect, but I feel like the time and the hard work is people underrate it. Yeah, you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, anyone that puts in time will surpass everyone else by quite a big margin. Yeah, and then also obviously it was impacted by your like athletic baseline.
Yeah, but see, I think that he doesn't get enough credit for like what he does in that drilling session. Like, because a lot of people will come in and they'll do like, you know, you can like, you know, say you're doing arm bars and they'll do 100 arm bars, and then the next guy will go like, I did 105, and the next guy will be like, I did 120, and you're like, cool, great, like who's better? Like, to be honest, if you all just like switch their brain off and did 100 arm bars or 1,000 arm bars, you guys will all be the same. Yeah,
he doesn't drill. I mean, obviously when you're getting a mechanic down, then we'll just do like, let's get the anaconda choke. Right. Is this tight? Is this not tight? But when we're drilling, it's almost situational with very, very light resistance.
Right. And then like,
it's not like do a rep.
And then there's that part of it, but there's everything else that he's picking up and that he's recording, and that he's like, oh, when this happens, and he records that. And then how much time, like, and only he can answer this question truly, like how much time after the training does he like revise, and then so that the next training session, it's like, I'm going to do this, right? And I think that's the credit that he doesn't get, you know? Yeah. Like, oh, mat time. And I'm like,
yeah, for sure. Like the quality of mat time is also a metric. You know what I mean? It's a huge metric.
But what about all the non-mat time that he puts in? That's what I'm trying to say. He, you know, like, and I think that's like people will go, oh, he's talented. But I'm like, no, he did all this extra work outside.
We've talked about it, and he reckons like my experiences with ADHD and obsession and stuff like that, he can relate with a lot of that. And you know, when I asked him about burnout, because I always, you know, I struggle with it, he was basically just like what you said. Like he's like, oh, if you're feeling off, like it's okay to take time off because it's like the long road, you know what I mean? Yeah. And over time you will end up, so it's better to keep the enjoyment of it and try to figure out how to like stay in the game and take some days off, and that's fine. Then like push, and then you're just half-assing it. So that's one thing. But with the obsession thing, like I've literally found a week where I couldn't train for whatever reason. I was working late or something every night. And I was obsessing about a sequence, a set of things that I was like trying to work in my head. And I had never tried it in real life. I hadn't seen anyone do it. Like I wasn't looking at like John Danaher and trying to figure out what his game, like I was just like, okay, I get stuck in this spot. What if I do this? Okay, what if he does? Like literally just visualizing. When I'm bored as shit, my mind just does stuff, right? So I'm like doing tiling or scrubbing or whatever. And so that week I didn't train at all. And I come on a Monday and like the sequence that I was visualizing all week works first time.
Yeah.
And then like it's repeatable. So it works again and again. And it's like, I've never tried it. I never like, you know what I mean? So there is 100% something to be said about like the like neuron connections you're making when you're just like visualizing or thinking about like the class or the position or the whatever.
100%. Yeah. There's argument that like your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and just like what's going on in your
Well,
head.
they did those studies, right, where they had people shoot hoops for like 3 hours, and then I think they had, well, I don't know the numbers, but I'm just like giving and then they had people shoot hoops for 3 hours, but also visualize shooting hoops for like, I don't know, a certain amount of time. And the people that visualized did much better compared to their baseline throws.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like scientific for sure. Like visualizing definitely improves your skill.
Yeah. I was part of this like study, some dude sitting as like masters and on like Olympic weightlifting. And like part of the program was like visualization. So like I'll go do one session like of lifting, and then the next day will be like just a visualization session. And like he like literally like wrote out like the cues and everything, and then like I'll have to listen to this thing, and then it'll just be like walking you through, and you close your eyes and you visualize it. And like legit, like man, the lift, like I actually think that like from doing that visualization, the lifting numbers just started going up crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because like I started like to the point where like you're kind of sitting there and you're like feeling the like the muscles tense up, and like he's like walking me through this proper visualization, you know, and then he's just like, it was just crazy how much like I felt so familiar when I started like lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like you just think that like you go in and just lift would be way better, but I think it's because you're like actively like tuned in. Well, you can go to the gym and you can just not be tuned in.
Yeah.
You put on your like the banger of a song and you're like, yeah, whatever. Lift it up. Oh, that was shit. Oh, that was shit. Whatever, you know, you don't care. Whereas when you're visualizing, you're like properly focused in a.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that definitely helps, you know, with jiu-jitsu. And I don't think much people do that in jits. Like I'd be willing to bet that like only people with like deep obsession would actually do it. You know, like.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, I'm never like consciously trying to do it. I'm never like, okay, I will now visualize. It's like I just can't fucking stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what goes with everything. Like I've said this. Like when I'm in an obsessive phase, I feel like I could put myself up against anyone in the world with learning the skill I'm obsessed about over the period of time when I'm obsessed about. Like I will consume life energy to get better at what, you know what I mean? The problem is I can't control it. So sometimes it'll just fucking veer off track. And now all of a sudden, instead of doing the thing I want to do, I'm like obsessed about solving Rubik's cubes or some dumb shit. I'm like, I don't need this, you know, you know? So that is the issue I struggle with. Like, and I still don't really have an answer. I'm kind of keen to get like a psychologist on here and be like, you know, pick his brain more. Cause the only thing they told me was like, oh yeah, it's the autism spectrum, and you can have that like comorbidity from like with ADHD. Yeah. So some ADHD people kind of cross over into other things, and like that's it. Take the box, and that was it. Like that's, you know, I didn't really get any like.
Yeah. How do I use this? For?
Yeah.
Like,
what you know? Yeah. But.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'd say that like I get like obsessed like with things as well, right? But like I stretch the like maybe I set like such unrealistic things to obsess on, like it's almost impossible to let go of it, if that makes sense. Because like that's like legit like part of the like sleep like disorder that I have, right? Like I can't sleep because the brain's just like, oh yeah, let's just think about that like most of the time, like when I can't sleep at night, it's like kind of thinking about like what's the best coaching method, right? Like how am I going to make things better for the guys, and how am I going to make the training room better, and all this kind of stuff. Like, oh yeah, I taught that lesson today, but like I could see like people probably only nailed like 50% of that lesson. How can I make them like nail 100% of that lesson? Like, you know, like 100% of the room nailing 100% of the lesson. Like, and that's when I'm just like fully like, okay, what could it be? Oh, different learning styles. Oh, what learning styles are there? And you know, and then you just go down this massive rabbit hole, but it's like so big that I can't really switch obsession, right? Because it's just like so many different things that all come into that. And so I think obsession is kind of where success kind of starts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you'll find anyone that's like top percentile in anything if they're not like very obsessive about things.
100%. Like whenever you see the champions do interviews and stuff, you're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's that one on like GSP, right? He's like proper OCD, right? Like he's fully like, you know, walking down the road, steps on the line with his left foot, got to step on the line with his right foot kind of thing. Proper OCD, you know, you're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
In the training room, they want everything to be perfect, right?
Yeah, that's another beginner mistake when you're like practicing moves. You want like, it's like nowadays I will focus on speed way down the line. Like I'd rather do 1 rep and get it right than do 15 reps and like just, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so funny that like, you know, you've probably heard that saying, and it's like so cliche. Like, what is it like? Slow is smooth is fast, right? And I'm like actually starting to understand that a lot more now. Like you keep going slow until it's smooth, and then all of a sudden you're just hitting it fast. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I knew this sort of with magic, right? Like, there's this new move I was working. It's actually called the judo flip because it kind of looks like one. See if I can get it. Yeah. See, I'm still shit at it. I'll do it one more time.
Dude, that's like crazy finger dexterity, man.
There we go. So that's the judo flip. But yeah, like when you're starting it out, you're literally like,
yeah.
and then like it doesn't actually work because it's not done fast.
Yeah.
But I need the muscle memory to then finally like be able to see, even now I'm a bit shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's like cardistry vein. It's more like, you know, manipulation and shit.
So my theory on that is like all of that stuff is part of the mind fucking you, right? Because you're like, wow, that's so cool, and then something happens, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Because
So there's a theory in magic, right, where a lot like this was a big debate, especially because cardistry it's kind of like the jiu-jitsu of martial arts. Like it's a new art form. So back in the day, this wasn't a thing, and then like somewhere around like late I don't know dates. I'm not a historian, but there's magicians that are like, fucking, you need to know everything. But well, I have mates that literally will like be like, oh yeah, that's in book this, series this, page 5, and I'm like, oh fuck. No. Anyway, I'm not like that. But so yeah, like there was a big debate where like magicians would be like, if you do cardistry, you're detracting from the magic because you're giving an impression of how skillful you are with cards when, so then the magic now is not as cool. Like, as in like, if I do a trick and it's just like card vanishes and I've never shown you anything else, that's like a miracle. But if I'm like doing all this shit and then all of a sudden a card vanishes, it's like, it's obvious he could do that, right? So there is that exactly what you're saying, where it's like, does it detract from the magic or does it not? Now I started magic when I was 12, so to be taken seriously by adults, I had to do cool shit, and then they'd be like, "Oh fuck, this kid's mean," and then they'll start watching me. So I came from it from the other side. It's like people didn't take me seriously, so I'm like, all right, let me show you the skill. And then now I've actually scaled it back down. So now I will do simple stuff, like you said. That's why I don't start off with like, I might do this, you know, just to like get in the mood. But you know, so yeah, I don't do as much as I used to.
Oh, but like even the different types of shuffles and stuff like this, like just like even that, like I think you guys forget that like no one can do that, right? Like I mean, like dealers can do that, like you know. And so when you're like and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just give it a quick shuffle. You're like, what?
Yeah. So there is actually another thing where it's like sometimes if I'm going to do a false shuffle, I might do it in this way.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like I'm doing anything.
Right.
You know? So that's another thing, but that's besides the point. Yeah.
But like, so like back onto that point of like what is it, like card trickery or whatever you call it? What is it, cardistry or something?
Yeah, cardistry.
So they have this like obviously you're like making it more entertaining, in my opinion. Like right, like I'm like, so if you go to like a stage performer, they don't just come out and just like cut a lady in half.
Yeah.
Like they have loud music and this and that and why do they do that, right? For the entertainment factor. So like I think cards are kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm just like that newbie guy, but I like it.
No,
like,
I agree. Like I think a lot of magicians, it's like a balance, right? But like some people would think that like a good magician is someone that creates miracles, right? like miracle. So if you want the magic to be as strong as possible, you just show it in a vacuum, and it's like this is just an impossible thing that happened. And like, you know, a lot of these guys, like some guys don't perform gigs or like paid performances at all. So they'll just like do one thing and then leave you on that. They won't even do anything else. So now you're just like, fuck, bro, the card floated and that's it. And then he left. Like it's such a memorable moment, you know? Yeah. So when you're looking at it from that point of view, I think it makes sense. But if you're looking at it from like, oh, I'm getting fucking paid fucking good money to perform right now at this like, you know, corporate venue, I'm going to fucking, you know, make sure they know I'm legit as fuck, you know? So there's like, it depends on what you're doing and why you're doing it, you know? Yeah.
I get that. But I just, For me, it's like, magic is like, because, you know, obviously, like I've been talking to you online and stuff, and I've been like trying to like figure things out and stuff like that. And the more I figure it out, the more I'm like, actually, I don't want to figure it out. I want to be like, you know, and I have to like kind of think about why I don't want to figure it out. And it's just kind of like, oh, magic makes me believe that things that are impossible can be possible, right? And like, the last time I was like that was when I was a kid. Yeah. And I'm like, why would I want to rob myself of that?
That's so funny you say that. So Paul Harris, there's these black books over there. He has like this little essay about why, like, I always took it as a like kind of an insult when people are like, oh, like I'll show someone a magic trick. I'm like, oh, my little cousin would love this. And I'm like, I don't do kids magic. So I'm like, oh, fuck, you know? But then his point of view is that it's actually not, it's like they're not insulting or they're not trying to like downgrade what you're doing. Yeah. They're just associating their own mind space to that of a kid, because so when you're born, you put everything in boxes, right? Yeah. So like the first time you see something fall, you're like, what the fuck was that? Like as a baby, because you've never seen gravity work, right? And so then you categorize that and it's like, okay, things fall when you drop them. You know, when I go near a flame, it gets hot. Put that in that box, right? So there's all these boxes you're categorizing the world around you in. And so the experience of seeing something that doesn't fit in a box is a childlike state. It happens all the time. But as you get older, the boxes get more and more filed. Everything starts to make more sense. You get more set in your ways, right? So when you see something that doesn't fit in that box, boom, back to childlike state, right? Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah. And then there's the whole ego thing where it's like some people will take that as like I'm not doing a good job as an adult if I can't file this in any box. Right. And that's when you get people like that are genuinely heckling because they don't like that feeling. Right. They cannot take the fact that they don't know what the fuck is going on. You know? And sometimes as a performer you have to like recognize that and like manage it. And so sometimes I'll have to like do something that they can see but no one else can see. Stuff like that, right? Because I don't want to walk in and ruin the vibe. Right. So sometimes I have to manage the egos, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And sometimes if they're being a dick about it, then I'll just do something they can't see, but everyone else can see. And I'm like, fuck you, and I leave. You know. Nice. So yeah, but like that is a really interesting thing you brought up, because Paul Harris is one of the greatest thinkers in magic. David Blaine's one of his advisors and stuff. Oh wow. So the fact that you touched on that is pretty fucking cool.
Oh yeah, bro. Like, because like that's the thing. Like, because I was just like sitting there thinking about it for like ages. You know, like one of those like can't sleep kind of. Like, I was like watching this dude. What's his name? Jason, whatever. Going, like, dude, like, and I'm just like, man, like I could probably go down the rabbit hole and get obsessed with it. Try to figure it all out. Understand like probably like maybe 50% of it, which would actually probably kill a lot of it, to be honest.
It does, yeah.
And then I'm like,
however, then you start moving on to magician's magic.
Right.
And so there's always something to look forward to.
Yeah. And then, but that's when I started thinking, how far will this go? And then I was just like, actually, like, why do I want to do this? Yeah. Like, don't I I'm like so addicted to magic. Like seriously, like probably YouTube holes, like, if I get onto magic, it's just like, oh, bro, this is this. And like, it just feels so good after. It's just like, oh, this is so amazing. You walk out of there like, everything is completely possible. Men can fly. Like, we can walk off buildings and fly now. That's where I think, you know? Yeah. And like getting that, and I'm like, I don't want to kill that feeling. So I'm just like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it now.
Yeah. For a while I had like genres that I wouldn't touch for that exact reason. I'm like, I don't want to know how Dove Productions work because I want to see that shit. Yeah. But then I started learning about them. I'm like, oh, it's kind of fucked up. They're in like tight pockets. They clip their wings. Like, you know? Yeah. So I kind of ruined that for myself. But I don't know what you call it, but you know how the cups and the balls and
And like, so I started like watching it, like, and I didn't like study it, but I started watching it, like just like rewatching the same clip over and over again. I was like,
There's a great one that Penn and Teller, you know Penn and Teller?
Yeah.
They do a great one where they do it normally, and they do like a 2-person version, which is kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
The way like the mechanical parts of it work, and then they do it with clear cups, and it's literally just exposing it, which a lot of magicians are pissed.
Yeah.
But it's such a technically, like from all perspectives, right? Like misdirection, like sleight of hand, the ability to like work on the offbeat, like all these different concepts that like all magic pieces really have, like encompassed in the cup and balls, like one of the oldest I think probably the oldest recorded trick in existence.
All right.
And so seeing that with clear cups and seeing exactly when things happen, it's almost like just as mindfucky, because you're like, holy fuck, this is so perfectly like scripted and planned, and you know what I mean? You see the inner workings, but without really having to go deep, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. You should look it up.
Yeah, I'll definitely look that one up. Because I saw there's this other guy, and he has like a clear table and stuff like this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like, dude, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Dude, this is like messed up. And like all of this stuff is like cool. Like, and you're just like, oh, bro, like, yeah. And then they always do this, like, they'll have this clear table and you'll be like, oh, is that how you do it? But then they'll do this other trick on top of it, and you're like, what? Oh.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that didn't make sense then, because I could see, but then that still happened, you know?
Yeah.
So man, I love all that kind of stuff. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, I can start to like break it down, and I'm like, no, I don't want to break it down anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to know. Like let's just like let it be magic. Like it is magic. It's like, yeah, you're like Shazam.
Yeah. So I got into magic because I was pissed because my mate showed me a trick, and I was like, you know, like when those mates you like love but hate at the same time.
Yeah.
I was like, this motherfucker, you know. So I tried to get him back, and then we just like back and forth for that whole year. And then that's how we just like got good after about a year of trying to fool each other, you know?
Right, nice.
But like, so that time I think it was sort of a ego thing, similar to what the heckler would do, but like I was just like so interested in the workings, right?
Yeah.
But then I think like as I started performing and like, you know, later on I started appreciating that aspect of like the suspension of disbelief, the impossible moment, you know, like it's almost like I had this discussion with a friend of mine. He was on Penn and Teller Fool Us, and he was like, I was like, I don't know if I believe in magic, like I think it's all deception, and that's what's interesting about it for me, because like, you know, I grew up super religious, felt like I was lied to, so I'm like, anything that's like efficient lying is interesting to me. It's like, what's the mechanism that makes it believable? Like that to me is fascinating. And I was like, to me, magic's all deception. Like that's all it is.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, no, I disagree. I think magic is real. And if you expect your audiences to believe magic isn't real, magic is real, but you don't, then that's fucked up on you as the performer. And I'm like, what do you mean real magic? He's like the moment of me going, I wonder if I could make this wine glass float. And then like figuring out a way to make it seem as if that's reality.
Yeah.
To him, that's real magic. So it's like the endeavor to find the magic. Is the magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the world is fucking numbers and boring and taxes and shit.
Yeah.
So to really be like, no, I wonder if I could do this thing that's impossible. Like that's the magic.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a pretty cool perspective, because I don't think about it that way. And so it's really been like playing around in my head since I had that discussion, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I don't know if I believe in magic, but I think like I've learned to appreciate that aspect of it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I think I've learned to be like, no, this is actually like a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
100%. Yeah. Because I think things like the magic that kind of gets, I don't know if it turns, I don't know, I'm not too fussed about, is like heaps of the David Blaine stuff, right? Because I'm like, actually, like I can appreciate the skills you've used to get there, but I don't know if that's magic, if that makes sense. Like, so like whatever, the sitting in a box or whatever, you know, and all that kind of like in the ice and the
so a lot of that is endurance art, is what you would call that.
Yeah, see, but it's not magic per se, it's endurance art, right? And I can appreciate it, but I'm like,
so yeah, David Blaine's an interesting one because he took a lot of inspiration from Houdini, right? And Houdini was primarily an escape artist.
Yeah.
And combined a bunch of other arts like magic and other stuff. He came at it from the other perspective, like a magician that's also an endurance artist, right? So he sort of tried to recreate all the Houdini acts and even the ones that he didn't end up doing. Like I think Houdini planned to do, was it Buried Alive or some other stunt that he died before he could do it. So then he like did it, and there's all this stuff. That's the one where he like sat in a block of ice for like 3 days and literally went insane. Yeah. So he's fucking crazy. He's insane. I would not do the, but the magic he does is fucking fascinating. Because he takes that endurance art idea into the magic. So he, for example, in his special Real Magic, really cool special, he does this trick where he like learns how to sword swallow, right? And he does this trick where he takes a ring of a spectator, vanishes it, and then he takes a hanger, like a cloth hang, like and like bends it, so it's like kind of like thin, and he swallows the coat hanger, and then he swallows the ring. That's important. Then he takes the coat hanger, swallows the coat hanger all the way down like a sword swallow, pulls it out, and the ring is now attached to the, so shit like that. It's like there's the actual endurance like thing of like, oh, you need to actually sword swallow. And then there's the magic of like, he needed to link the ring to the coat hanger. Right. And so the combination makes it the most unique. It's called like, it's the linking rings or penetrating ring or whatever is like a classic effect, but he just completely did a new version. So there's all these things like that where it's like, oh, that's fucking cool. Or he does this thing where, again, there's this one trick where he like, there's a few cups and you have a spike under a cup. And you do that, right? But he does it with the combination of actually putting a spike through his hand, and that's a real thing. Which I'm like, it's fucking insane. Why would you do that? But also like, fuck man, it's David Blaine. Who am I to say, right? So what I think he brings to it is like this like drive to like innovate or to push magic past what it's already been done. So I think in that sense, it's actually pretty cool.
I don't.
Whereas like Dynamo, right? Like he's just does magic and has a whole team, and it's like, it's cool, but he's not like, he's a really successful magician. Whereas David Blaine, I think like try to find another motherfucker like that. You know what I mean?
Okay, I get
like that's sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah. I just don't like like there's this one, I can't remember the whole trick, but he like choose a card or something, sign something, you get this one, I get this one, puts it in his mouth, and then he sews his mouth shut, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, like, nah, that's not cool, bro. That's not like, I don't want to see that. Like, like, so you've like, I wanted to see the trick until that happened, and then I was like, dude, nah, man, what are you doing, bro?
Nah, that's fair. Like, I can see that criticism. I mean, to me, it's just insane that he's like the commitments.
Oh, bro, like that's what I mean. Like
I would never do that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it takes away from the like magic for me. It's just like, oh man, you're just enduring a lot of pain now, and like that's awesome, bro. Like no one, like I don't think, like you said, one of a kind. Like I don't think anyone else would do that. Maybe like a couple of psychotic people, but like you're like but I don't want to like watch you for that. Like I want to watch you for the like make me feel like I'm a kid again. Like make me think like a kid again.
Bro, on stage he fucking so he was gonna do it on tour and then had to scrap that idea because he did it a couple times and almost fucking, well, you'll see. He put a metal cup in his mouth and then had a rifle with a laser, and so he'd like look in the mirror to line up the laser and had a string and just shot himself in the mouth into the middle cup, and it was 100%. Like it wasn't a fake thing. Like and I'm just like, you're fucked up.
That's not okay.
Yeah. And like all his advisors, like there's a couple like real fake, like in the magic world, they're like super well respected magicians. They're like trying to convince him not to stop doing it, and he's like, no, I think I'll do it. Yeah.
Even the like I think he's pretty famous for it. The frog thing. Throws up the frog or whatever. Even that, with that, like I appreciate the way that he, like, because I watched some interview or something and he explained it, how like there's an art and there's this whole thing, you got to make your stomach an aquarium, and whether it's true or not, I have no idea.
It's true,
yeah. And then but I'm like, oh bro, like, and then he like does the trick, and you're like, But like I can appreciate that, but that's nasty, bro.
Yeah, his whole thing is blurring the line between an illusion and a magic. So then when he actually does the illusion, you're questioning whether it's possibly true, which some would argue that makes the magic stronger. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's his whole thing, and that's his whole. And I like, I love him for that from my perspective. And I'm like, you do that over there. I'll be right here.
Right,
you know?
Right,
yeah.
That's what I mean. Like I like it takes away from the magic for me because I'm like thinking like, ooh. Like,
I
can't get through that. But maybe I'm just like, weak. Or something.
No. I think it's totally valid. I just when there's like the three that keep getting compared, right? Chris Angel, Dynamo, David Blaine.
Yeah.
Dynamo's is a skilled magician. I mean, from my perspective, his stage persona, his stage presence isn't that great, but he's fucking successful and has a lot of money and can pull off a lot of shit. So it's great. Like, I'm not talking shit, but I think there's more entertaining people to watch, but that's my opinion. Chris Angel is just relied way too heavily on video, like camera stuff. Yeah. And apparently his stage show is really good. It won awards like live. If you go see him in Vegas, apparently it's really good. So I can't speak to that. I've never seen it. But out of the three, I think David, to me, is the most impactful in terms of like the magic, pushing the magic, So that's sort of what but he's not my favorite. I definitely, if I show you some underground people, there's some cool people.
I actually really like maybe it was just because I was a kid and they were pretty big, but like Penn and Teller, they were really like because it was really like some of their stuff was like pretty over the top, but like heaps of it was really. I like most of the simple little things that they do.
Yeah,
and like especially with the ones where they show you what happened, but then they trick you again.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, dude, that was just too good.
Yeah.
I thought like he gave me a bit of a thread.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I've got this. And you're like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are still top.
There's one where he floats a ball and they tell you it's a thread. Like they tell you
right.
like, oh, this is on a thread. Yeah. And at the end of the trick, they cut the thread and the ball falls, right?
Yeah.
And they still fuck with your head because you're like, how is it moving in those ways? Like how could you do this with a thread? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though they told you how they do it, you still can't figure it out.
Yeah. That's kind of stuff is just like, oh, that's golden, mate. Yeah. Like you can't miss off that. And that's why I think they were really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think the whole like, one of them don't talk and one of them talk, like it's all part of it, right?
Yeah. And it's funny if you hear the guy, if you ever heard Tal talk.
No.
He's so eloquent. He talks so well.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
Yeah. He's got this like real like intellectual like smooth voice. It's like, bro, why are you so quiet? But yeah,
I mean, because I remember watching their show. What is it, like Fool Me or something?
Fool Us. Yeah.
Fool Us. Yeah. Like I remember like just watching that on YouTube for so long. Like, oh my god, I was like, I think I just spent like 2 hours watching this thing. Like, fuck, I gotta stop.
Yeah. No, it's one of the greatest shows in magic, I think.
Oh yeah, it is.
Because it's from the perspective, or like, it was built by magicians.
Yeah.
The magic is really well represented.
Yeah.
It's not like America's Got Talent, but there was one controversial thing what happened where like there was this trick, and the editing team like slowed it down and saw that you could figure it out and edited, like CGI'd it to look like it wasn't staged. So everyone was like, did it even happen? Oh. Like I know the magician, I know what it would have been, I know what trick would have been, so it did happen. Right. But it like they were like, everyone was questioning because it's like you can see like if you break down the footage, it's CGI'd. You know what I mean? And it's like, what the fuck is that? So, all sorts of stuff like that. Like and the fact that they have to try to fool Penn and Teller, which don't want to be fooled because it's their reputation. Right. Yeah. That adds a lot of validity to, what is happening on screen must be real. Really, really smart. Like one of the most genius shows of all time. Yeah. In terms of magic, for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest ones that I've seen was like, I think it was like Coin Megadrick or something like, so like, he's just on the table and he's just moving coins into corners and shit. And he's just like, and then he's just like disappearing. And then like, I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like you kind of get how it's done, but then when you see it done really, really well, you're just like mind blown. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. Like, and again, like it's that simple kind of magic where it's just like, they just did it so well. You're just like, nah, okay, that has to be completely like magical, real. You can make things physically disappear and pop up over here. Like there's no other way, like it's out of it.
I had a mate, the coin guy, he didn't want me to say the number, but he spent a pretty ungodly amount of money on this like course, that by this master in like America somewhere, just on that effect, the coin matrix, which is like a genre, and like apparently they went in deep even as to like how you place your feet. Well, your feet are under the table, you don't see shit, but how you place your feet when you make the coin go from here to here, like even down to that level of like body language and shit. Wow, he was saying it was fucking nuts. It was like, I don't know, like a 2 or 3 week thing on this one effect. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, but there's like a bunch of ways you could do it. You know, it's not like, but yeah, his on's like sleight of hand and shit. So.
Yeah. I think that interview with David Blaine, he spoke about like some dude like learning how to roll dice and stuff, and legit like just rolled dice for like a decade to learn how to roll dice so that he could land on whatever he wanted. And that's when I was like, when he revealed that, I was just like, oh bro, like there's so much skill involved in magic and performances that like,
I question the validity of that story, but
really?
Yeah. Okay. But so I think he's probably using that as a mechanism to go into a trick. I assume he did a trick. Yeah. Most likely cheating in dice happens from switches.
Right.
And the
like switching dice?
Yeah. The top like dice gamblers will switch dice in and out, most likely. It's unlikely that they will rely on rolling only, because what happens right in casinos, you'll have a wall that you have to bounce off. And so it's almost impossible. I mean, I'm sure you can get like a better average. Maybe that's possible. But like every time landing on what you want, fucking doubt.
Yeah. So he was saying that like this kid, like this guy or whatever, like bought a casino table and everything, reconstructed it, and it was just like rolling dice, like
you could probably improve your odds. But I doubt you could be like, I'm gonna roll 5. I'm gonna roll 3. I'm gonna roll, you know. But like to be, if you really want to like, all right, I'm gonna bet big this round and I want to win this round, you're gonna switch dice. You're gonna switch. There's a bunch. There's loaded dice. That's like one mechanism. So like the die will fall on that spot. Or there's actually spotted dice, which I think they're called spotted dice, which are like way more genius because they only have 3 numbers that keep repeating. But because you can only see 3 sides of a dice at one time, it looks like it's different. So that's actually a really cool one. I need to buy some cool tricky dice.
Yeah. But then like with gambling, if you can get your like average up really high, that you're gonna like, you know, like, because you can't get it every time. Yeah. But like the way you bet, you could win a lot of money. Yeah. Like you could cash in.
Yeah, I wonder with dice. Like I'm not for example, with cards, I definitely know that there's people that can cut 25, 13, 14, like whatever. Like they can just dead cut
like based
to
on
a number.
Feel.
Yep, 100%. That's doable, right? So I know that for a fact. Yeah. With dice, I'm not like it's not my. But I strongly suspect that was a narrative to help a trick. Yeah, because I think I've seen him perform that set. Right. And it's oftentimes like explanations are setting up something, right? But sometimes the explanation overblows certain parts to make the trick work.
Yeah. I got that. I got that from him. Right. Yeah. But then I started believing in like dice skill, or developing skills to manipulate dice after I saw that. Like I think it's a game or something, or like some kind of skill where they have a cup and they have all these dice, and then they got to like shake it and then they stack them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, if you can do that, and like they'll have to stack them in like certain orders and stuff like this. And I'm like, bro, if you can do that, like surely like you can start to develop pretty damn good skills with dice that are that people couldn't really believe in, you know?
Yeah, I mean, dice stacking is a cool thing. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely probably a thing you can get slightly better at. I just wonder whether it's as like, was he claiming that he could do that basically?
I can't fully remember. Like I think he was just like,
because
I think he played it off like, but that would be like, you'd need like 10 years of fucking thing to do it. And then he does something and you're like, wait, but then that guy, like, I'm just lucky, you know? What?
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's a question of like, it's hard. A lot of tricks have multiple possible methods.
Yeah.
So when you go, like, what's he doing here? If it's a really innovative idea, like Penn and Teller sometimes might know how a trick is done, but they have one guess.
Right.
So they're like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Which one was most likely? This one. No. Fuck. Okay, you win.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
So that's a big thing where like, I'm pretty sure now they probably screen that sort of thing, because what you could do is you could go like, so let's say I'm palming a card, right? I'm palming. All right.
Yeah.
So I could go, and it's like, is he palming or is he not?
Yeah.
Just to trick you out. You know what I mean? So I could pretend to do moves that aren't there to try to trick you out if you're trying to look for stuff. And I'm pretty sure the producers of the show are like actively screening for that, because it's like pointless, right? Like if we're just playing a game of hide and go seek over whether or not you're palming a card, this is pointless.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, there's a lot of that where it's like, who knows what he did, but
that makes sense. Yeah. Dude, so how come you got into podcasting? What's the
so I used to do YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's just like staring at a camera, doing multiple takes.
Yeah.
Pretty boring.
Yeah.
And I got locked into the magic space, which I don't always feel like talking about magic, or I don't always feel like talking about just magic. Yeah. And I was like, man, like I don't know. I just think it would be more fun. Like it's just hanging out, talking. And we've been thinking about podcasting for like a couple of years, and we're like, we should do that at some point. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went like, okay, let's actually go all in and do it.
Cool.
And I was like, I think we can make like a unique hook with the magic stuff, with the visual stuff. Because nowadays podcasts, like, you have the audio, but you also like, there's a lot of it like Andrew Schultz. I don't know if you know, he's like a comedian.
Yeah.
He's got like a podcast called Flagrant, and that's like a fucking TV show now. Like they don't even use mics. They're like little lapels, and like there's so much chaotic shit happening on set that you almost have to watch it. Like if you listen to it, you probably can get some of it, but it's like not, you know. So I'm like, man, a lot of podcasts are just being watched now. Yeah. And so if I add a visual medium like magic and shit, and even if you're listening to it, you might go back and rewatch it on the video later on, or whatever, you know. So I felt like no one was doing that. No one, like there's magician podcasts for magicians that talk about technique. Yeah. But like no one gives a fuck. Like unless you're a magician, who cares? Yeah, right. You know. So it's like, how about? I've always been about that. Like even my YouTube videos were like magic content, hopefully for non-magicians. Like I was trying to like kind of give some insight onto Fool Us performances or something without actually going into the method. Yeah. You know? So I've always thought about that, because like a lot of the magician way to make content is like just teach. But I'm like, I don't want just magicians watching. Like that's not fun for me. I never has been, you know? So yeah, that's sort of like, I was like, oh, conversations with some magic sprinkled in. That's pretty much what I do in my gigs. Like, nice. Honestly, the interesting shit happens once you break the ice with magic, and people start like feeling like, oh yeah, like one time I lost money at fucking Vegas with this and that. And it's like some like property investor. I'm like, oh shit. Like, you know, like sometimes it's like crazy conversations that happen between the magic tricks. And I'm like, that would be a cool thing to record. Yeah. That's so cool. That's nice. Really how I got it. Like, yeah.
How's it going anyway? Like, is it going off as much as you'd want it?
I mean, bro, anything to grow takes time and effort, right? When I was doing YouTube, I was doing daily videos for like a fucking 9 months. Oh shit. So that's, that skyrocketed. Now we're doing like, we're aiming for an episode a week. Sometimes we're missing that, especially now I'm like trying to fucking pay my taxes. So it's working more than I need to. But yeah, like, so like, yeah, it's just growth. It's just time. What we found though is that the short form, the TikToks, the reels,
they go off.
They go off. Yeah. And if you like, it's a skill as well, finding the right content for that. Yeah. And we're like, that's kind of been trial and error. But I think we're starting to figure out like kind of what works, why people watch, why people engage on it. And then that will just feed back into like, like Maddie's thing, 2 million views. I did a trick one time. It was like a basic explanation of the 3-card Monty, very classic gambling effect, 6 million views on TikTok. Like, and then people will like, you see it enough, like these short form, what I've realized is these short form things, it's like, you're not going to get views instantly on your podcast because of these reels, but people will see you week after week on reels. It's like, oh fuck, I got a long day at work tomorrow. Yeah. I want a podcast. I've been seeing that guy. Let me check it out. Yeah. And then that's it. So it's like with advertising, right? Yeah. You don't get a Coke after the first ad you watch. it's just over and over and over, and then eventually you'll feel thirsty and you're like, oh fuck, I want a Coke.
Yeah.
You know, like so. Yeah, sure. We're just using that strategy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the hard thing about social, where it's like you got to let it build over time.
Yep.
And like everyone just like, because everyone just like hears about the viral stuff and just be like, yo, let's just hit the viral. But you're like, oh no, it actually takes so much time to build it.
And also like if you just keep at it, the ones that don't get views, as your channel grows, they will get recommended too. So for example, when I started the other channel doing the reactions and stuff like that, my first few videos had like 10 views for months.
Right.
You know, and then 1 or 2 would pop off as I kept making them. But then the other ones were still like low views.
Yeah.
But if you look at it now, they all have like 40K. All the old videos have like heaps of views because I kept popping off, and then people get suggested videos, and then they click on those, and then just keep going down the rabbit hole. You know. Right. So if you just keep at it and it's quality, and people are genuinely enjoying it, like your target market is enjoying it, then it's just a matter of time before the engagement actually pushes it. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just using what I learned from that to try to. Yeah. And also like, I think, monetization's easier when it's not copyrighted content. So that was also a big push for us.
Yeah.
Cause reaction is all copyright. Like you're reacting to some video that you don't own. So then you can't monetize. Yeah. So you have to sell stuff or do other shit. And I'm like, yeah. It's just annoying.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Is there like big opportunity in podcasting for like money and stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Real.
Yeah.
Like, is that just through like advertise? Like what's the?
Yeah. Like if you look at the biggest, obviously we're talking about Rogan and shit, but he probably makes like a low ball estimate, like 150K an episode or some shit just through ads, and then whatever else he's doing. Probably more, to be honest, but that's just like so, yeah, you're looking at views, you're looking at the actual, like ads in the podcast. If you have like sponsored ads, so like fucking what's that shaving one that fucking that everyone get
on the UFC thing?
It's like for male grooming or whatever. Manscaped, right? Like if you get the Manscaped, you're getting money off that. You're getting money off the views you're getting on the YouTube. You're getting money off. So it just keeps, it's like it's a cycle. So yeah, we'll see. Like we're just trying to do it for fun. We're just having fun with it. Yeah. If it ends up monetizing and we can fucking make a living out of it, that'd be great. But honestly, to me, it's like, if this is all that happens, it's been worth it, because I've had conversations with people that I would never have normally. True. Like, so it's been great.
Yeah, man. And you're like, man, because like you've invested quite a bit, obviously, all the like the tech and all that kind of stuff and table and and you're even sacrificing, there's so much for it, man. Like, yeah, man.
Yeah, it doubles off as like a gaming space and play board games here and shit. So it's not the worst thing.
Yeah. You're a big board game player?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Okay. What's the
autistic obsessions, G? You get me going on a fucking What's the what?
What's the favorite? What's the go-to? What's the recommendation? I'm like super like everything that I've done in life is like always just like super like focused. So like when I was like gaming, I was just like Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Or like I think I did Warcraft for a bit, but I didn't like expand out. So like with board games, I like. The only game that I've like seriously played was like Monopoly. And that's it, and so like what's the I got every single scenario you can think of. You want something strategic, we're playing fucking, you've heard Civilization, like computer game. It's basically that, but in board game in space. Eclipse. If you're trying to play like cooperatively against the game, so it could be like 6 players against the game, hardcore like strategy chess thing, then it's Spirit Island. If you want to play fucking like, if you want to be Elon Musk and terraform Mars, we got that. If you want to, you know what I mean? It's just like literally whatever we're feeling in that day. It's like, boys, what are we feeling? Are we feeling like brain burning today or like just something chill, So it's just like that sort of feel like. Oh, wow. You got some pretty serious stuff there.
Yeah. I don't play enough as much as I want to though, because all the weekends are taken up by editing and shit, but. Yeah.
Oh, bro. Video editing and stuff like that. Oh, bro. Can't stand today.
Yeah. The nice thing about our setup is that we don't have to edit much. Like it's all done when we're done, but there's still like all the fucking back end stuff you still got to do. So yeah.
Oh man, because I take like the camera into like training sometimes, and I'm like stood up on tripod, and you just like record, and you're like, oh bro, that's like an hour.
Yeah.
And I got to cut up and like try to like get little clips. It's just like, oh bro, like, and then you're sitting behind the computer, and then like 2 hours go past, and you're just like, oh bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't do it. Like,
I don't know. You get faster at it, but it's always a time sink, you know?
yeah.
And honestly, the only thing you can do is just keep improving the workflow to try it. Like, so that's, you know, we're like, okay, we'll spend fucking $1,000 more just so we don't have to edit by hand.
Right. Yeah.
You know, cause that's going to be like legit, like fucking minimum 3 hours saved every episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's a lot, you know? So and then you just
100%.
keep doing that. Yeah. But
I think I'm just at the point now where I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. I just need to pay some dude to just come in and just like film on a regular, so they just got like tons of content and stuff to just pump out and stuff. It's like, oh fuck, it's just too hard, eh? But it's pretty cool. Like, yeah, getting all the, like, I think when I was trying to do stuff like to try to get the students more engaged and stuff like that. I was actually like a ploy to try to get people to train harder. When I was just like, oh, here's some dasses. Everyone's done dasses. Oh, everyone's done guillotines.
that was good. Yeah.
You know, and I think like people were starting to vote and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, sweet. People are trying these moves now. Like, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was going to try to go down the rally, the avenue of like whatever the modulars, and then just be like, oh, who did the pass better? You know,
That's smart.
You know,
that's a good idea.
But yeah, fuck, just the amount of time I was just like, fuck, actually I'm spending so many hours a week just burning through like video stuff. It's like, no, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, outsourcing is the hard thing, because you're like so used to doing everything yourself as when you're like starting businesses and shit. And then you're like, fuck bro, like I could be saving so much time.
Right. Yeah. So like, it's like the time versus money thing, right? Like, so you're like, oh, I can pay this guy to do this, but then you're like, hopefully I'll pay him X amount, but hopefully it kicks off into actual like return. Yeah. If it doesn't, it's just like, okay, well, where that cost, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
How do you find like, so jiu-jitsu as a hobby? Yeah. As like, you know, your escape or whatever, and then transitioning to business. How do you find that? Because like this has happened a lot. I usually try to monetize my passions, and then they always become fucking work. And I'm like, fuck. Yeah. Like, you know, I just lose the fun. Yeah. How do you handle that?
I think it's tricky. It's actually quite interesting. Like after doing the jiu-jitsu thing, I realized that like the personal passion is actually like jiu-jitsu. So like if I want to escape life, it's jiu-jitsu. But the actual passion for like contribution and growth and all this kind of weird stuff is actually coaching. So like I could coach almost anything and that'll be like fulfilling. And so like when you think about like my business model, I've actually monetized coaching. So it's like a bit different for me. Like that's not my escape. Like coaching is not my escape. That's actually what I like to do on a regular.
Quite different. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if I like, you know, and to be fair, I don't do much jiu-jitsu like for myself anymore. Like most of it's actually for the club and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like that's how I can kind of deal with it a bit better.
You just separate in your mind a little bit.
Yeah, and I really look forward to like coaching like on a daily. Like I like, you know, if they're like, you know, that whole, if you win lotto, what would you change? It's like not much. Probably the car I drive, maybe where I live, but I'd probably be doing the coaching gig anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah. But yeah, like in saying that, like it could be like coaching something else, right? Like it could be coaching striking if I was good enough or whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like that's how like for me, it's like not so bad.
Yeah, I actually feel you on that, because I definitely found like the monetizing of teaching magic was fun.
Yeah.
Like I always enjoyed that. Yeah. It's actually the gigs that fucking burn me out.
Yeah, right.
Like, because that's the doing the magic, which is supposed to be fun, but now all of a sudden it's work.
Right.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And that's what I mean. It's like if I did like jiu-jitsu for a passion, that would be like competing. Right. And then that's different altogether, right? And like everyone always turns to like instructionals and coaching for the money. And I think you're kind of alluded to it with like magicians and stuff as well. They do the same thing, but they're not in it for that. They're teaching for the money, and you're like, oh, you're not gonna love that. You're not gonna, you know, like, and that's what I mean. I think it's easy for me because I like coaching.
The problem with magic and coaching is that there's no hard line to define who's better. Yeah. There's no way to like draw a line in the sand and say, yep, this is definitely the skill level you're at. This is definitely the skill level I'm at. And therefore you should listen to me. So I find that oftentimes even people that I'm teaching, they'll ask me advice. Yeah. They won't take my advice. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, I don't do it like that. Yeah. And I'm like, you're a fucking scrub, like, or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's like, and this is comes back to all the egos in magic, and like everyone in the fucking magic community feels like they're better than everyone else because there's no hard line to know who the fuck is actually better. Yeah, there's no rolling, right? There's no you keep catching me with this thing. Fucking show me how it works. Yeah. It's just like, this is what I think. No, this is what I think, and then this is what. It's just everyone has their own opinion, and no one really like gets checked, you know. That's why I feel like the difficulty with teaching magic is sometimes. Yeah,
but then it kind of like the question that comes to my mind when you say that is it like, can you teach above your skill level? Can you coach above your skill level?
That's a good point actually. Because some people are better coaches than they even are.
Right, because like I think coaching in itself is a skill.
Yeah,
and like being able to coach something is, you know, and like there's the argument like you can never coach something you haven't done, right? And then the other argument is that like coaching is a skill in itself, right? Yeah. And they kind of like contradict each other. So like the whole theory is like you can't teach something that you've never done means that only world champions can teach other world champions how to be world champions.
Right.
We know that's like not true, like blatantly, right? But could like a guy that's never done jiu-jitsu teach jiu-jitsu? No. Right. So there's like, I think it's like kind of somewhere in the middle. Happy
medium.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You need enough context to know what you're coaching, but enough coaching skill to coach.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Right. And so I think the next question is like, what makes a good coach? Like, do you have to be better than your student to coach them? And then again, we come back to that, like, can you coach above your skill level? Right. Because I guess the position I'm in, I have to believe like I can coach above my skill level, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so for me, like the definition of a coach is like, they can tell you what you need to do or what you need to know. Like they can make you understand what you need to know. Like, whereas like most coaches will be like, oh, like you should do it this way. And then they're like, but that student's so closed off to it, he's not gonna, like, you're not a very good coach then, are you? You know, like that's how I kind of see it, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's more just that like, there's in magic, there's no hard line. Like people are either fooled or they're not. So that's, I guess, the hard line.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's no hard line denoting, like, you know, if I want to count. Let me give you an example that doesn't say too much. So let's say I need to count 15 cards down, right? So what I used to do back in the days, I had small hands and weak hands because I was 12. So I struggled to do what's called a pinky count, which you're literally counting back here, right? Now this is good because you can't see anything that's happening right now, and I'm counting, and I could be talking to you and I'm counting.
Wow, yeah.
So I used to do it here.
Yeah.
But here, it's obvious I'm counting. Yeah. So I have to then like engage with you, misdirect while I'm doing this. There's all sorts of other problems, right? So I'm here being like, yo, trust me, like practice this one. It will take you some time. It takes some strength in a pinky. Like you might need to actually work out your pinky to get strong enough to do it. Yeah. But trust, it's way more versatile. It will pay off in the end.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, yeah, but I do it this way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was there and I did it that way and it was very limiting, and then this way. So you know what I mean? It's like I can explain that, but it's like, oh, it's working for me. They don't catch me. Yeah. And it's like, okay. Yeah. Like there's beyond that, you know, if someone's like stubborn in that way.
So my number one thing with that would be like you use the word a lot, like trust me. As a coach, it's like, why should I trust you when I don't even know you as a coach? Like, and so then for my job as a coach, then at that point in time would be like, I have to build trust off this guy. Right. So what does he need now? He needs to trust me. So then how am I going to build, like a good coach would be like, oh, how do I build this trust relationship? Or if I want to coach him, if I'm committed to coaching him, if it's just like.
No, I'm talking more about like, you know, one-on-one lessons and stuff. That they're paid for and shit. So it's like you're paying to ask, you know, to get my expertise, and I'm telling you that this is the thing, you know. That was sort of the thing, because like they would already have known about me. Like it's not like I'm some random.
But still, like, why would I like even though you've got my name and you got like that's kind of like saying it's not quite the same, but like similar to like if I pick up a one-on-one client, right? They were like, oh, well, you tied a black piece of material around your waist, so I should trust you. Right. But like, no, like who am I and what do I do? And like, you know, like, and so like, I think that's where people kind of or coaches kind of fall over first, right? Is that they just assume that like we've already had the financial transaction, or you're here for this, so just listen to me. And no, it's like that whole like respect thing, right? You got to earn it every single time. It's like trust. You got to earn it every single time.
Yeah, but like, see, the difference is in jiu-jitsu, you could be like, okay, let's get into that position, and you'll see why. Like I can show you why. Like actually, whereas with this, it's like, oh, they're not catching me. Yeah. So beyond that, I can't unless I give someone catch him this time, and then I go do it. You know what I mean? Like I can't really give that hard like. Yeah. See, this is actually objectively better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I guess like for you that's the challenge, right? You gotta figure out ways to deliver that information that they're gonna be like, it hit me, and I'm gonna take like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, like for me, like the number one thing about like coaching, like your first standard lesson, will be like shrimping, bridging, I don't know, forward rolls and whatever, something like probably like a rear naked choke or something. Like if you do a private for like for day one, right? Something like this, right? And then like, but my whole thing is it like, if you taught me rugby, right? If you're going to teach me, like, I don't know, any other sport, like rugby sport, right? Would you be like, okay, our first day, we're going to like do sprints, we're going to pass the ball, and we're going to kick the ball. Cool. Come back tomorrow and we'll do more, right? I'll walk away from there going like, okay, I guess this is going to do something for my rugby. But like, if you put me on,
see it straight away.
Yeah. But if you put me on a field, and then I'll be like, what's the guy in the middle for? Like, he doesn't have the same uniform as me or the opposition. Or how do I win the game? Like, what? A
bigger overview.
Yeah, right? Like, because like, when you teach, like, for some reason, when you teach sport, you give them this overview, right? Like, and you're like, oh, two goal posts and run here, do this, here's the point system, here's the referee. Like, before you even start any skills, right? Like, I think this is kind of like part of the coaching and stuff like this. I don't know about in jiu-jitsu for you, like, that's what's missing, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Like even
a huge question I keep getting asked, like, by day oneers, but I don't have time to go through everyone. But it's like, so what are the rules?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, right, yes.
That's an interesting one too, though. Like, what are the rules of jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like, there's only like one rule, really: submission.
Yeah. But I think what they're really looking for is like an overlying guideline of like, what do I do? What is there to do? Because otherwise I'm just flailing. Right.
Yeah. 100%. Right. And I think that's what like heaps of it, like we miss that, you know, even to the point as like I think I asked the other day, some of the guys like why do we shrimp? Like is that explained to day oneers? Like, why do you shrimp? Like, why do we do this such a weird movement? Like when you think about it, like in isolation, no grappling experience. It's kind of strange. Like, it's nothing like we've done before, like I've done before, right? And I think like all of this kind of stuff kind of adds up to like you trusting your coach, right? Because like if I said do 100 shrimps and you just did 100 shrimps, there's like some level of trust there, right? Yeah. But if I want to build more trust on day one, I'd be like, we shrimp because of this, we shrimp because of that. Like, you know, like maybe like here's some context. Yeah. Here's some context for it, right? I think that's where like a lot of people be like, trust me, bro. I've got like 10 years experience, bro. Just listen. You know, you're like, yeah, kind of.
That's true. Yeah. And I guess that context, there's sometimes when it's just genuinely more efficient to do the move because the context is abstracted in a sense, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if you cannot do the body mechanics, like the literal movement to see the context, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I guess you can still give an overview, right? But like, for example, that drill we do from Ashi, switching sides, up, you know, just constantly going to single leg X Ashi. Like, people try to just breeze through that and like, okay, so how do I sweep here? It's like, yeah, I can show you all the sweeps, but your fucking knees, you're like, your butt's on the ground and you're just like, not even, your heel doesn't touch your knee. So you're not going to get anywhere, you know? And so there's a level of like, do this until you master it. Then we can actually look at the sweeps and you will actually have some form of control. Because otherwise we're wasting our time showing you transitions. The guy's going to pass straight away. You know what I mean? So there's a level of like, you need some level of mastery of the fucking position to start with.
Yeah, I think you're right, 100%. But I do also think that like in that example for like it'll be like like show me a sweep and stuff like that. And I'm like, cool, I'll show you a sweep. And like, this is how I teach it anyway. I'll show them a sweep and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's like really, really hard. I'm like, it's because your hips aren't high enough. So let's go back one step and do this again. Like, so then instantly they've discovered,
Right.
oh, I need to get higher hips. I need to get connection to them way better so that I can do the next move. So they have the context in the joint already, right?
Right.
And for me, like, that's like super key rather than saying, shut up and do 1,000. Like just shut up until you get it right. Cause they're like, it's in their head, they're getting it right. Like, and this is like if we go back to the striking analogy, like Cam keep telling me like, yeah, turn your hip over. I was like, I'm turning my hip over.
Right.
In my head, I'm turning my hip over. But like, I had no idea that I wasn't turning my hip over. Right. And then when I did get it.
Yeah. Not knowing what you don't know. That's the hard part, right? Like not knowing what it is that is right and what it is that is wrong.
Yeah.
So then it's not that you don't want to listen to your coach, is that you think you're actually doing it right.
Right. And then that's for me where like the coach's job is to be like, I can say like, you know, like throw your hips up, put your knee there, ankle and knee connection, da-da-da-da-da. I'll not do it again. And like, if I keep giving him the same cues and he's not changing, I'm a bad coach. Like that's the truth, right? And so like, for me, I'm like, oh, I need to give him the information that he will understand what I'm trying to get him to do. And I think that's a good coach, right? And that's why I say like, most of the time context is super important, right? And the context behind it, like why it's even more important is I think that it breeds proper fighters or practitioners. Like most people will do what you say, and then when it comes to like go live, they do what they want to do, right? And you're like shrimping is probably the easiest example. Like most people, by the time they've done 1 week of training or 2 weeks of training, even 3 weeks, even a month of training, they could probably shrimp quite efficiently down the mat and back and up and down. And they, you know, you could.
But how many can escape side control?
Right, and less than like escape side control. How many of them use shrimping in rolling? Like, and you're like, oh, you clearly don't know why you're shrimping if you're not like, you know, like that's one of the most efficient ways for us to move and create space. Also,
the shrimp down the mat is different to the shrimp you do
100%
when you escape.
100%. So who's at fault then?
Yeah.
The coach is at fault right now, like because he's making you do a move that you don't use.
It's good for day oneers, but it's not good for
100%.
Day 14ers.
Right, 100%. And so like for me, I'm like, oh, I kind of like that's where I'm like thinking like coaching is like kind of falling off a little bit. You know, like we do heaps of stuff because like you were told to do it. And
just
then,
do it.
Yeah. And then like, you know, so like even like, yeah, like you see like quality repetitions versus like number of repetitions matters, you know? And I think there's argument for like, I think I have to defend the other side of that argument because I did that. So like, you know, after doing 100 arm bars and then you do like 100 arm bars the next day and 100 arm bars the next day, like you do learn things about it. Like you do learn things, but like, I think it's just like quite a longer path to get there. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
We could go on for hours. I am busting right now. I'm literally about to explode. So thank you so much for coming on. That was fascinating conversation, and hope you enjoyed the magic.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And, and it's crazy the amount of insight you had onto magic as a non-magician. Honestly, that's fascinating.
Oh yeah.
So Shot for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Where can people find you?
Instagram, Syzygy BJJ. SYZYGY, no vowels.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. 115 Dana Drive. Come down for a trial. Check us out.
Come on and have a roll.
All right.
Shot.
Shot.